An orphan boy is trapped on the street and becomes the target of cruel experiments. Some mad scientists decide to turn him into living weapon. He is given the name of Subject Number 17, and for years he is injected with cells from more than 500 monsters, until he no longer looks like something he can be. It can be called human. Once his body is completely ruined and looks like a failed experiment to the scientists, they decide that now it serves only one purpose: to send him to the front as cannon fodder. This experiment was started for this purpose from the very beginning anyway. When the gates of the demonic realm burst open, monsters flooded the world. Only a small number awoke as hunters, and even fewer were strong enough to hold the line. Eventually, humanity realized that they didn't have enough awakened ones, so they turned to something much darker. They started making Chimera hunters, prisoners fused with monster cells, and engineering in labs to fight monsters instead. When the 17th Chimera finally arrives in the realm of monsters, something unexpected happens. Eliminate monsters stronger than S-rank threats, slash beasts, and destroy entire hordes of monsters, even at the cost of ruining their body. The hunters watching from behind can't believe it. A Chimera is doing the work of an entire army. But when the job is done, the hunters abandon it on purpose. His orders are simple. Do not bring back Chimera number 17 alive. Nothing of him remains except a single bone. However, that bone suddenly floats in the air and begins to regenerate its entire body until Chimera number 17 reappears. Except this time, he's a handsome young man with rock-solid ABS. Still in shock from his crazy resurrection, he wonders if he's really human again. He thinks that since those monster cells are still inside him, he probably doesn't count as fully human, especially with the ease with which he flexes those sharp claws, like she's about to launch a fashion line for alpha predators. No one from the lab has shown up to drag him back, so our guy assumes he's been abandoned like a freak. Then he realizes that the lab number that used to be on his arm has now been made. And that makes him wonder if he's finally managed to cut ties with the lab for good. Since he's sporting a body hotter than hell itself, he surmises that this might be the trait of an immortal-type monster. The kind that can revive up to 3 times unless its core is destroyed. But one thing still worries him, that scientists used to swear that human and immortal monster cells could not merge. However, here he is in full alpha mode, radiating a maximum form that makes Johnny Bravo look like a background filler. Maybe any side effects she had were erased, as she remembers how her head always felt confused and chained by some kind of mental spell. But now she feels as free as she can always be. So he thinks maybe it's time to live like a real human, now that his days of being the obedient dog known as number 17 are over. That name was just something he was randomly given anyway, and he tries to remember the real one. But he's suddenly dragged into a flashback where that old scientist referred to him as a lunatic with a difficult personality. But still, he told her to help people from now on. The old man asked him to devote his life to saving 1,000 people, but back then, our guy, drowning in his emo and nervous era, did not even bother to respond. Coming back to the present, he calls that advice pure garbage, and laughs at the ridiculous idea that some orphan born in the slums there is supposed to be help others. As she contemplates the sunset sky, her ABS glowing like they have their own lighting budget, she thinks about revenge for a moment, but lets the thought pass. After all, revenge needs a visible goal, and it's been so long that his grudge. It better feel more like an itch that fades than like the real thing. And besides, there's no way back to the human world right now anyway. He thinks that he will find them one day, and decides to shelve the whole revenge thing for now and focus on what is to come. Looking at her majestic body, a divine radiance conveniently covering her most delicate parts, he comes to the decision that he will try to live as a proper human being from now on, to make up for all the time that was stolen from him. As she walks away, she realizes that she should probably find something to wear and heads out on a mission to follow clothes, but then a strange thought appears halfway, that she can't even remember the last time she wore something. He turns on his brain cells to figure out what material might work, but comes up blank. So he does what any lost barbarian would do and starts scanning the area, and very soon something catches his attention. Later on, he sees the corpse of a bird-like monster and assumes that maybe he died in a turf war, although there are no wounds to prove it. That leads him to think that it must have been poison, which honestly suits him great since it is in perfect condition, and it is perfect. To skin, he transforms his arm into a giant blade, as if he were reaching for a butter knife, and remembers from the laboratory that it is better to start cutting from the belly and then move on to the limbs. Chien gets to work, but the moment he opens it, some purple gas leaks out. He instantly realizes it's poison, but he doesn't seem the least bit fazed, and inhales it as a perfume. The only thing that bothers him is the smell, since now he will have to wash the skin. After a while, he finishes skinning the giant pavo, and thinks that it wasn't such a bad job to do the first time. He then heads to the river to wash the fur, but when he takes it out, he seems a little disappointed to notice that it has become stiff, even though it felt soft before, so he concludes that it might just be the monster at play here. Then, out of nowhere, a genius idea hits him, like a divine inspiration, as he spreads the skin. And he starts hitting her like he owes her money. In the middle of the blow, he wonders if this is how people usually tan the skins, and hopes that it will work, instead of destroying all their hard work. After a good medieval therapy, the skin is smooth again, and lifts it proudly, hiding behind life. From the carcass of the bird, naked for modesty, he begins to make adjustments to the skin. But just then, a flame flashes on the monster's head. The bird's eyes pop open, clearly disturbed to see someone ripping off its skin like wrapping paper. Chien quickly drills some treble on the skin. He slips into his makeshift gear and ties a vine around his waist, as if he's ready for the runway. With that, she put on her new look, and honestly feels pretty good about the result. He sees some leftover poison on the inside, but decides to leave it at that because it's too much mess to clean it up. At that precise moment, the bird monster lets out a deafening screech that surprises Chien, who genuinely thought he was dead. He becomes agitated, and even seems to understand human speech, which puzzles Chien. He thinks that the monster must also be of the immortal type, since it was not breathing before. If this had happened earlier, I would have roasted it without a second thought. But now, seeing him weak and vulnerable, he thinks that there is no need. Chien just smiles and says that the bird got lucky, wishing him a second chance in life, before turning around for him. Leave. As he walks away, he casually adds that if fate feels especially spicy, maybe they will meet again. Some time later, he enters a cave, looking around as if he were buying a house. Without warning, a huge 100-footer jumps out and lands right in front of him. But Chio doesn't even blink. The creature attacks, but he is more worried about whether the lighting here is good enough for a home. With a clean stroke, he cuts off the head of a 100-footer as if he were swatting a fly, and turns around, mentally crossing this cave off the list. He then finds himself in a snowy mountainous region where a yeti is lying on the frozen ground in fear, probably having seen Chien coming as a sudden fright. Apparently, our guy doesn't get along with yetis, but he also turned down this placement because the food would be a nightmare to find. Then check out a forest, but the mushrooms smell so bad that it's like someone has microwaved fish in an office break room, so that one won't do either. Keep exploring from a creepy lizard cave to a suspiciously cozy volcano, but nothing fits. Finally, he reaches the edge of a cliff and takes in a breathtaking view, and is amazed that a place in the demonic realm can look so beautiful. He decides to explore the area and casually jumps off the cliff, landing with a thud that would have broken someone else's spine. Chien realizes that the water is crystal clear and there is also a solid fish population. Some monstrous fish jump up trying to get a bite, and he wonders if he could make one as a camping trip meal. Thinking more deeply, he thinks that this is the perfect place because it has a natural fish farm, clean air, flowers everywhere. So he makes his decision that he will build his house here, and decides to call it the Chien Duggan House. Meanwhile, in a distant part of the demonic realm, the air sparks when a portal opens, and something shoots out, crashing to the ground with a thunderous crash. A robotic figure rises from the smoke, looks around and wonders aloud if this is really the demonic realm. He takes a moment to soak up the beauty of the place, letting the fresh air and colorful flowers do their magic, and ends up deciding that this place is practically perfect to build Dubin's house. To start, he clears the area with these vine-like extensions that sprout from the tips of his fingers, cutting down all the trees in sight in one clean stroke. And once he finishes clearing, he uses those same vines to gather the fallen logs and stack them as his main building material. Just when things seem to be going well, he notices that the floor looks a little too uneven for his taste. So he takes the vines out again and smooths it all out, taking care to remove any remaining tree stump, until the clearing finally looks clean enough to house a Pinterest-worthy hut. As he puts the logs in place and plants the main pillars of the structure, he begins to notice how his body moves almost by instinct, and wonders if this is what people mean when they talk about free will. Especially since it's the first time he's built something that really belongs to him. Then he sets up the floorboards and decides to try snail-like monster mucus instead of nails, since that substance hardens into something rock-like, and he thinks it might even work as waterproofing, which honestly sounds like a win. When he finishes the main structure, he gives it a personal touch by covering the ceiling with silkworm cocoon threads, and that boosts his confidence that the monsters probably won't be coming knocking on the door anytime soon. Now it looks quite cozy and almost feels complete, but stops to think about what else a proper human house should have. Then he remembers that in the lab they used to show videos of normal houses before the doors opened. Thinking about it, he realizes that most people had pets or grew something in their yards. And since dogs aren't exactly a common thing in the demon world, he thinks the best option is to grow plants and make a garden. After spending some time thinking about what to grow, he suddenly has a eureka moment and decides that mandrakes would be perfect, especially with a snowy mountain nearby that suits their habitat. As he walks through the cold snow-covered terrain, he remembers that mandrakes usually grow on mountain-rich peaks, and the way the snow accumulates around him makes him remember when he was kidnapped and sent to the laboratory. Ironically, he now sees that moment as a blessing, because, after becoming a Chimera, he no longer had to worry about freezing to death or starving to death in miserable conditions. Finally, he feels the high mana around him and thinks that he must be close. And, indeed, he finally discerns the roots of mandra. They look like sunfish with leafy heads and are known to be super sensitive to stress, and often die from even the slightest change in their environment. He thinks that choosing the younger ones would be smarter, since they could adapt better during the move, so he carefully selects 3. Preparing for the screams he knows characterize them, but instead of the squeals he expects. He finds that the first little one is fast asleep, snoring like a baby, and the other 2 he chooses later. They are also sleeping peacefully, and even talking in their sleep. That baffles him until he remembers that the whole mandrake scream thing was more of a lab-created nightmare caused by humans growing them in low-mana, stress-filled environments. And the screaming was mainly a reaction to being forcibly ripped away. He begins to wonder if the silence is simply because they are now in the realm of demons, but even so, it is strange that they do not try to resist or flee. That is, unless they somehow recognize him as one of their own. Which wouldn't be too surprising considering he also has mandrake cells mixed up in his body. He gently puts them away in his belt, feeling relieved that they are calm and stress-free, and begins to wonder if he could kindly ask them later for some root clays to prepare for, or maybe even use their fruit as snack, although he quickly remembers that the fruit becomes poisonous if picked by force. So make a mental note to wait and ask nicely when you feel the time is right. Just then, he catches the presence of some hunters nearby and begins to wonder why anyone would bother climbing a dangerous snowy mountain, unless it is absolutely necessary. But he decides to take a look at them anyway, as he could use some portal stones from them. Meanwhile, one of the hunters complains that they have been left alone in the face of danger, because their supposed teammates abandoned them as bait, while the other yells at him to concentrate because a wave of rabbits. The monsters are getting closer to them quickly. The monstrous rabbits jump at them with their grotesque open mouths full of tentacles and fangs. But the guy manages to summon a force field just in time to prevent them from turning into dinner, although it quickly gives. He realizes that the barrier will not hold much and begins to wish there was. Accepted odd jobs instead. Regretting every decision that led him to this moment, he starts screaming for help. Just as his shield is shattered, our guy shows up with the kind of entrance that gives off a serious Superman landing energy. And both hunters freeze, stunned to see a real person casually appear out of nowhere. The sheer pressure of their presence alone sends the snow rabbits into a panic, and without hesitation, they scatter like frightened little rodents, leaving the two hunters there absolutely baffled as to how the monsters of Class B simply. They ran for their lives from a half-naked man. They rushed to thank him, introducing themselves as Songhua Kim Tion, and ask him his name, which he shares. But neither of them has ever heard a name like that. Kim Tion begins to wonder out loud if he could be some kind of hunter, lonely judging by his caveman aesthetic, while our guy turns the question around and asks what are they doing wandering around a death trap like this, since they don't seem to be of a higher class than that of. The two explain that they are on a mission to capture a living chimera in exchange for a reward based, quite generous, which instantly catches the attention of our guy. One of them clarifies that the chimera escaped from a laboratory and jumped into a portal in the middle of the chase, which actually greatly relieves him, since he confirms that they are not tracking him. He then asks where their equipment is, wondering how they ended up wandering through the wilderness completely empty-handed, and if they at least have a portal stone on them, to which the guy explains that his so-called teammates ran away with all their equipment, and that betrayal had been part of their plan from the very beginning, something they now regret not having noticed sooner. Hearing all this, our boy silently fixes his gaze on his portal stones. And while the hunters are trying to explain how they are suffering from mana contamination and will not be able to survive much longer, they desperately ask if he has a way out, since humans can only survive so long, limited in the demon world, before needing to return and purify themselves, or they will die from overexposure. One of them even begs him to help, mentioning that he has a pregnant wife waiting for him at home. But before they can even finish the sentence, our guy suddenly freezes as if feeling a change in the cosmos, then takes off into the air like the Hulk, leaving them hanging in the middle of the monologue with the wind in their face. Elsewhere, the robotic chimera is standing on the edge of a cliff, and the same hunters who abandoned earlier try to ambush it from behind, but the creature slowly turns to face them, making it very clear that now he intends to erase them from existence. When our guy arrives on the scene, his eyes widen a little, wondering if he arrived too late. Further on, blood and equipment are strewn on the ground, while a blinking blue ball of energy slowly fades away at the edge of the cliff, making him think that the hunters must have left and fled. They even left all their loot behind, and judging by the mix of child and animal tracks, it looks like the test subject might have changed his shape in the middle of the fight. Remember what the monster hunter said earlier, about it being a lab experiment that jumped into the portal during his escape? It is made of liquid metal, it can change shape freely. But because of how rare the material is, they built it small and compact like a child. Cheon looks up at the cliff, and can barely contain his laughter, realizing that this little mechanical gremlin somehow managed to tear apart 5 B-rank hunters. Meanwhile, back with our battered hunting duo, Kim desperately shakes Songhua, telling him not to give up. But the poor guy coughs, saying that his whole body is contaminated now, and he's finished, but Kim doesn't accept that, and mentions his family. Seonyu uses what little strength he has left to ask him to apologize to them for him, but Kim yells at him to suck it up, and insists that miracles do exist. Just then, someone enters the scene, making Kim immediately tense up. But it turns out to be Cheon, casually strolling back with all his luggage. The moment the monster hunter sees him, he runs over to him, gets down on one knee, and basically starts praying to Daddy Cheon to save them both. Our hero is confused at first, but then he remembers that he told them that he did not have a portal stone. That's when Kim suddenly pulls something out of his pocket, 2 checks for 10 million yen, and begs him to please give them a portal stone. He keeps rambling that if they don't get out now, they're definitely going to die. Meanwhile, Cheon looks at the money and tries to imagine the total amount in his head. He knows that there is no way to use it in this world, but once he gets to the human world, it will come in very handy. So with all the generosity his chaotic heart can muster, he pulls out a portal stone. Kim bends over in a perfect 90-degree arc and starts thanking her over and over, vowing that she will never forget this kindness. The monster hunter runs back to his partner, shouting that they are going to get out of here as fast as possible, while Cheon just looks at the 2 checks, wondering where to keep them. As the two are heading towards the portal, Cheon asks what the current price of the portal stone is, and is told that it has reached 1 million yen. Always the humble guy that he is, he says he feels he was paid too much, and puts a hand on the man of Seonju and casually says that he will give her some change instead. Ken seems confused until he realizes what Cheon is doing, that he is injecting mana directly into his partner. He immediately yells at her to stop, as transferring mana to someone else is dangerous. And if he reacts badly, both people could drop dead on the spot. Kem panics, thinking that this is how it ends, but then Eon-yu suddenly straightens up, as if someone had just pressed the reset button, as the demonic energy inside him is completely purified. He hugs Ken through tears, while the poor guy stands there stunned, trying to process what just happened. Cheon turns around to leave as Seonju screams that he will never forget this favor, while Kim is still frozen in shock. As he tries to figure out who Cheon even is, our guy returns home and stops outside for a second, then exhales relieved after not feeling intruders. The mandrake plants are starting to wake up. Her leaves look droopy and sad, which instantly raises red flags, so she gets to work planting them right away. Once they're all on the floor, she wonders if they're going to be okay, but they still look pretty miserable. Cheon looks at their depressed expressions and thinks that it could be because they have been uprooted from their original habitat. Or maybe they are just starving. Deciding to test the second theory, he injects some of his mana into the ground. The monstrous plants instantly perk up as if they had just had an espresso, and our guy can't help but smile at the result. While chatting with his new leafy roommates, he feels a presence behind him. He thinks that it is probably the mechanical creature that those hunters were chasing, although it seems strange to him that it followed him here. Deciding to ignore him for now, he puts the cash away and starts sorting through the loot bags. It turns out that he scored big, as he now has spare clothes, sleeping bags, kitchen equipment, and just then, his eyes light up when he finds a package of ramen. The last time he ate that was at the orphanage, and nostalgia hits him hard. Feeling hungry and excited, he decides to cook it right away. Following the recipe as best he can, he heads to the lake for water, but quickly realizes that he has no idea how to measure the correct amount. Before I can think too much, the sharp fish in the lake suddenly jump up as if trying to bite. Remembering how people usually throw random things into ramen to give it flavor, he prepares his fingers and takes out the soul of one of the poor fish. Then, look for ingredients like eggs and maybe green onion. He comes across some strange capsule-shaped eggs and takes some. And since there's no real green onion out there, he settles for fresh tree leaves, thinking they're similar enough. Then throw everything into a pot and decide that it is enough for the preparation. That's when the little robot comes out, holding his stomach like he's starving while looking at the pot. Meanwhile, Cheon turns on the fire and notices that the instructions don't say when to add the fish. So he just brings everything to a boil together. When the smell starts to rise from the pot, the monster plants instantly start gagging in disgust, while Cheon silently wonders if ramen always smells like this. The smell reaches the mechanical creature that begins to sway by the pure aroma of the food. He floats a little closer, while he thinks he wants to eat too. Then suddenly he transforms into a puppy. Remember from the lab that humans love dogs. So she decides to take advantage of that and starts fucking towards Cheon, pretending to moan to get some sympathy. But Cheon observes all this with an expressionless face, not even a little surprised. He thinks that the thing is just trying to lower his guard, and that the injury is clearly prepared. Looking at his too cute puppy act, he thinks that he is still young and ignorant, and wonders how something like that managed to escape from the laboratory to the demon realm by himself. Following the game, he asks if he wants to try the ramen, which makes the creature instantly drool. But right in front of them is a deadly mix of random nonsense that could end up with a grown man, but still. They both decide to take a chance. The moment they take a bite, the dog stops while trying to process the taste, but Chien, on the other hand, is hit by a memory of the hot pot at the orphanage and smiles while claiming that it tastes the same as before. Our hero declares that it is delicious as the memory is strong enough to override the horror of the real taste. Meanwhile, the poor Mandragoras are seconds away from ascending to their next life because of the toxic smell. After they finish the meal, Chien tells the dog that it's time to clean up and he can leave now. As the mechanical puppy walks away fucking, Chien casually points out that he was fucking from the other leg earlier. The robot then hurriedly switches to fucking with the original foot, while Chien barely holds back the laughter. After finishing the dishes, he moves on to the laundry, hitting the pollen-covered clothes with a stick like people used to do in the old days. Although he does not particularly like pollen, he thinks that he cannot continue to live only in a leather outfit like a caveman. He tries to hit the fabric gently to avoid tearing it, but one blow ends up shattering the rock underneath and destroying the garment along with it. After a brief moment of awkward silence, she sighs and picks up the last piece of clothing. That's when he realizes that the robot creature is still nearby, watching him from a distance. Before, he had disguised himself as a rock, before that as a fish while washing dishes, and before that as a tree while taking care of flowers. He realizes that the creature has been following him the whole time, silently changing shape without directly approaching. This continues until a bee lands on his nose, causing him to freak out and scream that he hates bees. Judging by the behavior, he estimates that the age of the creature is less than 5 years. Their speech is mechanical and awkward, a trait often observed in young chimeras with artificially implanted memories. Choosing to ignore him, she clears her throat to make the creature aware of her presence and casually comments on how beautiful forsythia flowers are. Meanwhile, he finishes the laundry and mutters that the task was more difficult than I expected. Unfortunately, he realizes that the clothes are too small for him, which feels like a waste after all the effort he put in. She hangs the clothes on a silk thread and then decides to check the mandrakes. The creature, taking advantage of the moment, takes the shirt he has just washed and wears it, eager to look like him. After declaring that the shirt is hers, she transforms into little human girl. Meanwhile, he finds the mandrake children struggling to the ground. Its leaves are wilting, and its roots look dry, which is strange, since he already removed all the weeds. Curious, he cava and discovers that the soil is still full of worms and debris, making it difficult for the plants to grow properly. He realizes that he should have tilled the soil from the very beginning, and this omission could have endangered the mandrake children. Wanting to do things right, he begins to prepare a garden size of his house. Just then, the mechanical girl stands in front of him and greets him. He's a little surprised to finally hear her speak. She asks if the house belongs to him, and he answers that it does. Immediately, she concludes that he must be a native of the demon realm. Deciding to mess with her a bit, he plays along and asks which tribe she's from. The question confuses her, but she tries to get out of the way, claiming that she comes from a very distant place, on the other side of the waterfall, one that he would not be able to find. He jokes around, asking if that means she's from the coconut tribe, and without missing a beat, she proudly feels like it's the most obvious thing in the world. When he asks her about the shirt, she casually explains that in her tribe, whoever finds something owns it, it's just their way of being. He has fun with her logic, lets her keep it, and asks what she's doing around here. She replies that she was kicked out of her tribe, and shyly asks if she can stay here with him, explaining that there are no bugs, and that there is a real house. So, overall, it just seems safe. This while nervously twiddling his thumbs, as if he were rehearsing a puppy dog eye audition. Realizing that she is just looking for a quiet place to rest, he agrees, but only if she makes an effort and helps with homework. Her eyes light up instantly, and she asks what he wants her to do, totally ready to immerse herself in any mission he proposes. He tells her that they need to prepare a vegetable garden so that the mandrakes can have a proper home. Without hesitation, he takes the stick, adopts a confident pose, and says that he is strong enough for the job. Then he proceeds to absolutely smash the floor, as if it were made of sponge cake. Watching her effortlessly tear up the floor, he thinks to himself that either she's really bad at pretending to be normal, or she just has no idea how average kids work. He finally introduces himself and asks her name. She stops, clearly surprised since she doesn't have a name. And after being inspired by the flowers she saw earlier, she declares that her name is Kamnari. She can say that she simply copied it from Forsythia, but now she is engaged, and repeats it with a straight face. Soon the vegetable garden is ready, and Chian even manages to place a neat little stone fence around it. Seeing the roots of the mandragora so cheerful makes him wish he had done all this before. But then Ken suddenly goes silent. She notices the change and asks why she is crying. She dries her eyes and says that mandrakes remind him of his friends, which makes him stop and wonder if something like friendship could even exist in the laboratory. Before I can ask more, a high-pitched screech cuts through the forest. He explains to her that they are just monsters marrying each other. Background music actually, in this kind of place. Terokum curls up worried and tells her that he saw a chick before he found his place, and now he fears that he might be in trouble. Chiena feels, and she adds that it looked like he had already been bitten. He tells her bluntly that he will probably be eaten soon. Seeing her shaking, he thinks that she wants to save him, but he can't decide to do it. She mutters that she can't save monsters, and he realizes that the brainwashing probably still has her locked up mentally, preventing her from making her own decisions. So, instead of telling her what to do, he offers her a suggestion, carefully expressed, that the calf might survive if he comes back for her, and that's all it took for her to get up, and he'll run. Meanwhile, in the forest, wasp-like abominations with 2 terrifying rows of side teeth are already attacking the injured calf. Just as one of them moves in to finish the job, Kimmy rumps like a caffeinated tornado. She kicks one of them in the head and says she'll save the calf no matter what. During the fight, he has a flashback to his time in the lab. The other Chimera kids hated her for constantly winning first place in ranked combat trials. That meant the other children became eligible for the experiments. More frightening with the highest failure rates. They snatched her teddy, pushed her to the ground, and told her she should let them win for once. They even said it would have been better if she didn't exist while they kicked her nonstop. She never understood because she was just doing what she was told. Now, looking at the monsters, he yells at them to stop. He yells that it's wrong for a group to pick on someone weaker, then swings his fist, and sends the last wasp flying into another dimension. Back at the house, Chion is casually feeding mana to the mandrake roots, probably feeling like a low-key plant dad when Kim shows up again. She runs to him, cradling the calf in her arms and screaming for help, terrified that he will not wake up. He tells her to calm down and take a deep breath. As he takes a closer look, something about the little ball of fluff starts to feel strangely familiar. Kim keeps crying, terrified if the poor ball of fluff is about to die, while Chion keeps calm and offers to take a closer look. He reaches out and pours some mana into the small ball of fluff, then relaxes as he realizes that the wound does not look fatal. The magic of each monster carries its own specific story, and although it shrank and changed color, Chion knows instantly that it is the same creature that he skinned back then. He adopts a Sherlock pose, trying to figure out why he shrank so much while on himself. He keeps asking if he's going to die, but Chion assures him that the thing is just malnourished and just crumpled up from starvation. She says she's already given her some mana, so if they leave her alone, she should recover on her own. However, Ken suddenly goes into a traumatic flashback spiral as her mind drags her down. Back to that lab, to his shattered wrist. In a trembling voice, she says that they can't leave her alone, while she continues to collapse like a sad pancake. He hugs her tightly while she makes puppy dog eyes and asks if he can keep her, promising to take proper care of her. Chion smiles and warns her that she might grow too big to handle, but she replies that she will only feed her a little bit. He gives into the pressure of her cute attack, and his eyes light up like it's the 4th of July, and he jokes that he could function as her guard dog, or rather as a guard bird. Just then, the ball of fluff opens its eyes and looks around in complete confusion, finally fixing on Chien upon recognizing him, and emits a low, threatening cooing. Kim jumps at the sound, picking her up with a squeak, saying that she is finally talking, while the bird just looks around, wondering what kind of hell he woke up in. She hugs him again while helplessly shaking, while Chien stands there awkwardly, not knowing how to process this madness. The fluffball screams again and demands to be let go, which catches Chien off guard that he can actually understand her. A few moments later, Ken wraps him up like a mummy and proudly announces that the treatment is complete, then says that he has already chosen a name for him. As the bird continues to squirm, he explains that because he's acting like a pigeon, he's going to name it Ku, which Chien thinks is kind of funny. The angry bird immediately starts ranting at Kim for making up such a ridiculous name, but obviously he can't understand it. So he pours a whole bucket of water on her head, saying that it must be had. She then stops in confusion and asks Chien why the bird is now swollen like a water balloon. He tells her that's probably enough hydration for now, so she runs outside to get food instead. Meanwhile, Chien thinks he should finally get a proper storage closet up and running since all his stuff is piling up. But when he tries to cut the wood, it just splits like cheap cardboard. He is confused as he made the table and chair well with the same method. The fluff ball is clearly done with his nonsense and points out that it's softwood, so of course it doesn't work. Chien realizes that wood types matter and asks which wood color is the strongest. The bird instantly responds, "I know whose," but then freezes mid-sentence when reality collapses upon being understood. She looks at Chien in horror, wondering if she has been able to hear him all this time. Crossing glances, he staggers on his feet and then activates his mental ability to try to read Chien's mind, but nothing happens when telepathy fails. However, Chien just looks around innocently and says that he doesn't see any red trees nearby. He wonders if they are growing up in another region as the bird panics, realizing that his mental powers have just been blocked. Finally, he drops the charade and directly asks Chien if he can hear him. Chien explains that it's not really hearing, but the words just appear in his brain. But then he reverses it by asking how a monster can even understand human language that way. He thinks the bird must be one of those super rare and intelligent monsters that are somehow born against all odds. But it's the first time he's seen one up close. Chien then directly asks if it's the same bird from before, which Fluff confirms, saying he came back because he wanted to see it again. Since Chien saved his life, he wanted to return the favor if they ever met again. Without wasting any time, Chien tells him to help him right now. That catches him looking unprepared, but he sighs, takes a deep breath, and agrees to lead him towards the red trees. Meanwhile, not far away, Kim runs as if her life depended on it as she dodges the falling fireballs behind her, yelling at whoever is attacking to back off. Tears run down her face as she screams that it's too hot, and suddenly an explosion sends her crashing face first into the earth. Her mind almost shuts down as she starts to panic, thinking that the labs found her and she's finished. Just then, someone comes out of the fire, who has long hair flowing dramatically, like some third-rate anime extra. Looking at her tracker, he confirms that she is the mechanical creature he was looking for. Charging another attack, she mutters that her life is also on the line, and throws another fireball at Kim, who can only look at her in defeat. But before she hits, our hero does the classic Chad move, getting in front of her, and effortlessly spreading the attack, as if he were swatting a fly. Ko immediately tells her that the directions of the trees can wait, since the main priority is the girl right now. Chien realizes that Kim is terrified of fire, and doesn't seem mentally stable at all. He decides to put out the flames first, and the fluffball agrees, adding that only a complete garbage bag would go after a child. Rapunzel from their glares and toasts Chien, and calls him a caveman, then threatens to knock him down if he doesn't back off. Chien replies that this Rapunzel cosplayer talks too much, which instantly turns him on. The guy screams that Chien is ruining his dramatic moment and throws a huge fireball at him. Chien just raises a finger and makes a freezing movement, destroying the attack as if it were a birthday candle. The explosion behind Rapunzel is massive, and he just stands there stunned as he tries to process what just happened. The debris starts to fall, but it's too late when he gets buried under a pile of rubble. A few moments later, Chien approaches Kim and asks if she's okay, who then dries his eyes and thanks him for putting out all the flames. He then gives her solid advice that the next time she's scared, she should hit the fear itself. As she walks towards Rapunzel, she grabs him by the hair and continues the pep talk, but suddenly stops mid-sentence. He looks at the wig in his hand silently and realizes that the guy underneath is suffering from full-blown shiny egghead syndrome. When Kim looks at the bald head, she bursts out laughing and says that the guy is not so scary anymore. Our guy looks at her out of the corner of his eye and wonders how she was ever pushed by someone so painfully low-level. The Phoenix Fluffball decides to step in and show her everything Kim went through using her mental resonance skill. This ability is a power that allows you to immerse yourself in someone's memories and share them with others. Inside that vision, he sees a mad scientist cackling, as if he had just invented evil itself. The man walks towards Kim, who is semi-unconscious, and realizes that she is gradually gaining self-awareness. With his fingers burning like little torches, he starts hurting her in the name of a durability test. Seeing that, Chien pats Kim on the head and tells her that she did well. He decides to help her break the old trauma loop little by little. He looks at the little phoenix and asks what they should do with the brainiac, and Kim's eyes light up with a naughty idea. Together, they tie the poor man to a giant rock and leave him hanging from a waterfall. Kim claims the water will put out his fire and make it less scary. When the guy wakes up, he literally looks confused and realizes that's definitely not what he signed up for. Kim crosses his arms and calls him a bad bald man again just for fun. Our guy sighs and tells her not to judge people by their appearance, but she looks at him furiously while holding a pot like a weapon. Go asks what he's doing, and Chien says he's looking for water for the ramen. Kim is instantly lit up as Chien's fish ramen is her absolute favorite. He teases her by asking if the coconut tribe eats fish ramen too. She pauses, then proudly declares that the coconut tribe loves it. Meanwhile, the bald man silently assesses his situation and deduces that the person who captured him must be at least an A+ rank hunter, maybe higher. He thinks that Chien might even be hiding powers beyond that. As the group gathers ingredients for the ramen, the bald man stares at them, thinking that hanging someone from a waterfall and then eating noodles next to them feels a little too hard. Kim comes out of the water like a mini sea monster holding 3 fish beasts in his arms. Our hero takes a look at his loot and tells him to throw 2 back and to keep only 1, because he is not running a seafood market here. The bald guy watches from the side, half horrified and half confused, wondering if throwing that fish monster into the ramen could make it taste like seawater directly. He also realizes that they have poured too much water into the pot, and he starts to doubt if these people even know what ramen is supposed to be. Before they start cooking up the chaos, he yells at them to stop and promises to take over the kitchen if they let him go. Very soon, Baldy is standing at his makeshift wooden table looking strangely dramatic, as if he were on a show. Kitchen branch with imaginary stage lights shining on it. He mutters that some might think that ramen is simple, but right now, his whole life depends on this one bowl. As he looks at the hungry eyes fixed on it, he calls ramen a pure food and decides to rely on the most classic cooking method, mainly because he doesn't really know any other way to cook. Pour water based on pure intuition, measuring for 3 portions. And once it boils, drop the noodles and the soup base. Mentally calculate that it should take about 4 minutes and 30 seconds. But since he doesn't have a watch, he starts counting the seconds using his heartbeat. After what he estimates to be around 200 beats, he lifts the noodles up to let them hit the air and get that perfect elastic texture. When he finally finishes, he sighs that the kimchi would have been perfect. But since he's trapped in the demon realm, this will do. He presents the ramen with pride, and they are stunned for a second before launching into it. The first bite sends them straight to taste heaven, and Kim, looking like a fluff ball, genuinely feels betrayed that the food could taste. See also. Chien, meanwhile, is just focusing on inhaling his portion like a man on a mission. A little later, the group sits there filled to the brim, as the bald man awkwardly waits for his verdict. Chien looks at him and asks him what he wants in exchange for serving such divine noodles, promising that he will grant any request. The bald man wastes no time and falls to his knees, asking for Chien's guidance and introducing himself as Nanjisak. Our hero looks at the guy with slight confusion and asks what kind of guide he is talking about. Nam explains that Chien is easily the strongest person he has ever met, and he deduces that someone like him must have built this house for long-term training. He claims that he can cook all kinds of dishes, casually boasts about fake chef credentials, and adds that he once worked with his father as a fry cook just to sound legitimate. Trying to appear useful, Nam offers to travel between the human and demonic realms to bring supplies, even promising to pay for the lessons. Finally, he admits that his real goal is to become a class A hunter. Naturally, our guy asks why he attacked Kim. Nam hesitates and asks if Chien means the machine creature, but Chien interrupts him and says that he is from the coconut tribe. Nam picks up on it instantly and goes with the flow, pretending he totally knew. She says the reason for attacking her was personal, not about money or fame, and it didn't even matter to the girl. I just wanted to pass the hunter promotion exam. Hearing that, Chien crosses his arms and tells him to get up for a practice bout. Before Nam can reply, Kim Nari steps forward and declares that she wants a rematch with the flamethrower uncle. Nam smiles and warns him not to underestimate him, but Chien asks if he can break a rock made of adamantite, which is harder than diamond. Nam admits that only class hunters can, and before he can blink, Kim smashes the rock and his confidence in one clean move. It turns out that Nam was born with a ridiculous talent and woke up his powers when he was only 8 years old, while most of the children were still trying to solve the multiplication tables. Since then, he trained like a possessed man and climbed positions so fast that he made older hunters question their life decisions. By the time he turned 20, he was already standing tall as a solid Bichu class hunter with a bright future ahead of him. He dreamed of becoming the greatest hunter in history, the guy whose name resonated in all kingdoms, but fate decided to play dirty. Around the same age that most people start waking up, their hairlines started packing their bags and leaving. During her 20s, her thick hair became a sad memory until she was left with a shiny head and a tragic hairline that seemed to have given up too. He tried every treatment known to mankind, but the doctors finally told him to stop spending his money and accept the truth. And so, the handsome prodigy with talent and charm lost everything he had built. Along with his hair went his confidence, and without that, his growth as a hunter came to an abrupt halt. That is, until one random day, he saw an interview on TV with Dr. An, a scientist, who had discovered a mysterious liquid metal in the realm of demons. The old man explained that he had accidentally spilled some on his head, and somehow grew a full mane of silky hair. Despite being 90 years old, Nam almost cried with hope. When the presenter asked if he would make a cure for baldness, the doctor instead revealed that he had used the liquid to create a machine creature. Nam almost lost his mind, convinced that humanity needed a cure for baldness much more than a glorified toaster with legs. A few days later, he learned that the machine creature had escaped to the demon realm. As the demon realm had no real laws, he chased after her, planning to catch her and pour the metal directly on her bald head. Unfortunately, reality hit him harder than expected. When he was knocked down by a child, our hero comments that Nam did not even connect a single blow. Chien tells him to train harder or he will never qualify as his training partner. Nam promises to do better, while our guy finishes a redwood rack, thanking Go for the ideas, and looks at Nam. Despite having been beaten all day, the guy looks calm, focused, and silently summons a flaming scythe in his hand. Go comments that Nam might be good with fire, but he is still being instructed by a child. Chien calmly reminds her that Kem is not an ordinary girl, and as the fight continues, That fact becomes crystal clear. Nam charges forward and swings his flaming scythe. But Kim escapes at the last second, turning his body into liquid. Before the poor guy even processes what just happened, she reforms and kicks him right in the face, sending him flying until he crashes into a nearby cliff with a loud thud. Ken stands up proudly and declares that he is no longer afraid of fire. Nam lies there, stunned, wondering if this is where his potential finally peaks. However, somehow, he gets up again, reminding himself that he never gives up, no matter how bad it seems. He challenges her for another round, but stops when he feels blood dripping from her nose. Cheon looks at him and asks him how long he has been in the demon realm. Nam wipes her face and says it's been 9 days. Our hero tells him that if he stays longer, the corruption of mana will kill him, and Nam nods in sign of understanding. Cheon then tells him that he has the potential to reach a class level, which catches Nam completely off guard. The man admits that he thought that people who failed the hunter exam for more than 3 years were hopeless, and he himself has been failing for 6. Still, Cheon tells him not to give up, saying that his mana hasn't fully matured yet. He advises him to purify him once he returns, and Nam thanks him respectfully, calling him brother. Cheon promises that one day he will make him an rank hunter. Before long, Nam is near a portal, getting ready to leave. He asks if they want anything from the human world, and immediately everyone screams for ramen. Kim smiles and tells her to stay safe, and Nam replies that he will definitely beat her next time. Just before going through the portal, he turns around and asks if anyone has seen his wig, but Cheon genuinely has no idea. After he leaves, Go expresses concern about whether Nam can be trusted. Cheon asks what he means, and the little ball of fluff says that Nam might betray them and bring other hunters here. Cheon asks for his opinion about the guy, and Go quietly confirms that everything Nam said was true. The whole exchange makes Cheon even more eager to train Nam, and Kim finally asks if he can really understand the fluff ball. He nods and casually mentions that he even built the storage rack based on the bird's advice. Curious, he asks if the room looks tidy now, and Kim replies that it was too dark to know. Chai captures it indirectly and quickly adds some windows, letting in warm sunlight. Ken smiles, clearly liking the shiny new look, which makes our guy wonder how to keep the room bright even after dark. When Kim asks how they're supposed to get a light source, Cheon says they need glowstones, crystals that glow naturally in the dark. He plans to hang them along the ceiling to light up the place like a soft night sky. Ju starts sweating nervously and asks where Cheon plans to get those luminous stones from. Cheon replies that they will have to visit the volcanic region. Go immediately warns him that it is one of the most dangerous areas known to hunters, and quietly adds that it also happens to be his hometown. Cheon notices the way Go's tone goes down, even when he talks about home, and Kim notices too. She turns to Cheon and asks what the bird said as it sounds annoyed. Cheon explains that Go is worried about the idea of heading to the volcanic region, so he offers to go there alone. Ken immediately refuses to stay behind, saying that he is no longer afraid of fire and wants to go with him. Cheon turns to Go, who sighs and says that he will come too, as he has some errands to attend to there anyway. With that, the whole team is ready for their next adventure. As Cheon begins to prepare his equipment, the roots of nearby mandragars can be seen, playing in the fields with Nam's missing wig, completely unaware of its previous owner's misery. Far away, deep in the volcanic region, the ground rumbles as if something huge is moving beneath the molten surface. An ominous creature raises its head and lets out an eerie scream that echoes through the endless hell. It is said that there are 3 places in the demon realm where even the bravest hunters would never dare to set foot, and the volcanic zone is one of them. First of all, the ash floating in the air is so hot that it can chance the human skin, and the mixed burning gas melts directly through the lungs. Yet there's Kim, casually dipping her feet into molten magma like it's a damn hot spring. The little phoenix just stares, completely speechless. The little ball of fluff thinks that it must be normal for something that is clearly not human to handle heat like that. But what really bothers him is how our guy is perfectly fine. Chien simply replies that he is a Chimera hunter. He may look human now, but he somehow regenerated into this form after his transformation. He then asks the phoenix if it's okay to join them, and the little ball of fluff says it's better than being alone again. Watching the two of them chatting about something that sounds profound, Ken gets and wants to join the conversation. That's when he remembers that he once asked about his past. She just laughs in response and says that there is no need anymore because she already knows that he is a native of the demon realm, just like her. Later, they begin to climb the volcano, and Kim points out a thick cloud of smoke rising from what appears to be the top. Up there, they finally find the luminous stones they came for, but down below, a huge fire toad is crying loudly. Just then, Kim notices another one nearby. The Master Go quickly realizes what is happening. The male toad is in mourning because the female died on the way. He adds that the eggs on his back will be cooked alive since he collapsed in a place where the heat is too high. The fluff ball is feeling sad about the tragic fate. That's when our guy comes up with an idea. He tells Kim to wait for him and dive straight into the heart of the volcano's crater. He lands right in front of the toad, who immediately looks at him with murderous intentions. Without warning, the beast unleashes a huge explosion of fire directly at him. However, he casually runs through the blazing fire and points his finger at the toad, giving it a light tap on the nose. That simple touch causes the huge creature to collapse instantly. It turns out that Cheon used the potent venom of a cobra, a toxin powerful enough to knock out even a poison-resistant fire toad. Although it should only keep him unconscious for a few minutes at most. Seeing him emerge from the flames completely unharmed feels unreal, so Kim asks if he's okay. He assures them that he is perfectly fine as he also has fire toad cells in his body. There's literally nothing this guy hasn't been injected with. Anyway, he realizes that some of the eggs have already been cooked, but he carefully makes sure that the remaining ones survive. By the time Daddy Toad wakes up, he finds the eggs tied to his back, and immediately, he moves to pay his respects to his fallen companion. After that, the creature jumps high into the air and lands next to Kim. He gives her a single glance at the Suede, and she perks up convinced that he was saying thank you. Chien knows that he was really looking at his partner, but let the little bird brain dream on. Later, Kim starts pulling out rocks almost as big as her head. He warns her not to drop one on her foot. The phoenix is exhausted, collapsing on the ground, and feeling pathetic when he remembers how he used to throw rocks as toys in the past. He tells her that he doesn't need to help, and to just go meet his friends as he had planned, but that instantly irritates the fluff ball. He flutters angrily and squeaks that monsters have no friends. He's not going to meet with them anyway. He just wants to leave some presents. Our hero is surprised to learn that even intelligent monsters can feel lonely. Embarrassed, the little ball of fluff lets loose that the only reason he's doing this is because he regrets not saying goodbye properly before he left. Then the tone of the phoenix changes. He gets serious and shares that while his intelligence allowed him to understand the beauty of the world and its many creatures, it was also a curse. He had to watch others mindlessly devour other creatures mindlessly, and that made him feel lonely. He felt like Albert Einstein trapped in a monkey horde of cerebrates. To escape that crushing loneliness, he left the pack, and now he doesn't really care if they survived or not, since he never really felt close to them anyway. As the baby phoenix struggles to pull another stone out of the rock wall, which suddenly breaks off and crashes into something below. Kim hears a loud crack, only to see an egg on the ground broken. He is worried that the phoenix has killed him, but our hero explains that the shell is naturally hard. The baby inside has to keep pushing again and again until it gets strong enough to break it on its own. Kim feels bad for the baby and suggests they take him home, but the little phoenix explodes, screaming that he is too dangerous if he hatches. Chien remembers that there is a nest that is perfect for it, so he decides to take it. Kim is absolutely delighted to take it all the way, while Go warns them that it's the first time she's seen such a strange-looking egg. Upon hearing that, she leaves him completely speechless on the grounds that it's her fault the egg broke in the first place. Our guy assures the fluffball that he will be there to keep them safe, and so they continue with their mineral operation. Later, when they are finally back, she is surprised to see the hair-deficient man waiting for more. Nam enthusiastically offers to take the bag out of his hands and proudly claims that he is strong enough to carry it. As Chien warns him that it weighs a ton, the bag instantly falls to the ground. Frustrated, Nam wonders what exactly it is he's carrying that weighs so much. However, our guy notices that the guy is crying a little and gently asks him how he ended up with that bandage on his face. Thinking he got into a fight, our guy says he didn't expect him to be the kind of person who gets beaten up all the time. Feeling embarrassed, Nam quickly walks away to prepare the meal. Later, Kim curiously asks our hero what he is doing by carving the luminescent stone, and he explains that he wants to use it as a light bulb. His big idea simply amazes Kim, while the way he helped the fire toad shows that his kind heart is also huge. She says he's exactly like a dad now. But when he asks about her coconut tribe dad, Kim decides to stop talking. Meanwhile, somewhere nearby, the phoenix is relaxing in the warm sunset heat, when it is suddenly ambushed by a tower of 3 threats stacked on top of each other. The mandrake at the top bounces off the ones below and goes in for a special drill attack. But the little troublemaker just bounces off the busy little white mare, sunbathing. Later, Nam serves him a sweet potato recipe that is fashionable among children. She takes pride in her cooking, knowing that the ready-made recipe looks amazing for something with such little effort. Kim and Go are really impressed by it, but Chien wants to get an answer about his presence. Ask before they start eating. Nan doesn't want to share the story at first, but after a while, he reveals that he was caught by some spiders on his way to apply in the Hunters Association. However, they told him to stop draining his aura by breathing the same oxygen as them. That made him angry, and he got into a fight with them, and the rest is history. Nam admits she lost it when she was asked if her self-esteem also dropped as fast as her hair. Then Chien asks when the next test will come. Our guy replies that he will come in 60 days. Hearing that, he offers to give Nam personal training, and the bald guy is delighted. However, his enthusiasm fades when he hears that the first job is to take care of washing Kim's dishes. Next, he has to wash all the volcanic dust off the shiny stones, leaving the poor guy speechless. He asks about the special training, but our guy mercilessly tells him to do it if he doesn't want to be a B-rank loser all his life. With that, he goes fishing with Kim, while Nam forces himself to work hard, because unlike what everyone believes, he is a man who got to where he is through effort and perseverance. Being a char who never gives up until the end, he drags the heavy bag into the forest. The scene changes to the river where Kim is upset because she can't catch a single thing. She gets jealous when she sees the bald guy collecting all the fish. Meanwhile, Nan yells at her teacher to help him with the hungry fish of his flesh, as water-type monsters are his weakness. Chien gets irritated by how useless he is and lectures him to just enclose his body with a magic barrier. But the bald guy complains that he still can't figure it out, so Chien tells him to hold his crystal. The moment she touches him, all the strength leaves her arms, and they begin to tremble. Our hero explains that this is the effect of a rare type of stone containing raw condensed magic. He adds that Nam's body is like that, full of magical energy, but he really sucks at using it. At that moment, he punches the bald guy in the chest, and suddenly he can see the magic circulating inside his body. Our protagonist tells Nam to feel the magic flowing along those circuits, and blindly the guy's arms are soon enveloped in a silver aura. He then instructs Nam to pick up the stone again, with mana flowing through his arms. With all the power he can muster, the bald guy activates his inner Saitama genes and lifts it above his head. Nam laughs like a maniac as he realizes that his teacher's genius homework plan had a purpose after all. Our guy tells him to keep doing his job while running mana through his body, and the one-hit man from a thrift store gladly agrees to do it with tears in his eyes. Later that night, the three of them are sleeping under the soft light of the luminous stone. Go has trouble sleeping due to his midday nap, but suddenly becomes alert when he sees Kim quietly leaving in the middle of the night. She follows Kim outside and notices that she is looking down, upset that her only dress got dirty. He kneels down by the stream and begins to wash it carefully, hoping that it will be clean again. The baby phoenix watches her silently, and soon Cheon appears as well, asking why she is doing laundry in the middle of the night. Go scoffs at the question and reminds her that she is a girl with no other clothes to change into. That makes Cheon pause, realizing that although he never cared much about what she wore, he might have overlooked the girl's needs. Ken finishes washing and comes out of the water proudly, only to find Go and Cheon standing nearby. Not wanting to scare her, Cheon casually mentions that the night air feels good and says he's just taking a walk with the fluff ball. He asks her if she is too. He's walking, and she nods sheepishly. Cheon then asks her to stop for a moment, ties a rope belt around her waist, and puts some flowers in it. Kim's eyes light up instantly, and she remarks that she looks just like him. Cheon smiles and says that the forsythia turns out to be his favorite flower. A sudden rustling in the bushes makes Kim shudder, but Cheon assures him that it is just a steel grasshopper. On his way back, he gently asks her if she needs clothes or shoes, though his tone feels more paternal than casual. Ken looks confused and says she likes the outfit he gave her. The next morning, Cheon visits the human world near the slums of District 13, deciding that it is not okay for Kim to wear only one set of clothes. The locals look at him suspiciously, but he hardly notices, thinking that it would have been better to bring Kim to choose what he likes. Then she realizes that it might be too much for her to face the human kingdom after what she has been through. He is laughing to himself while looking for a clothing store near the slums, when a young man approaches and offers to take him there for 10,000, claiming that he knows a cheap place. Cheon replies that he can pay after getting some change, which makes the boy assume that he is another ruined rookie who was robbed in the other kingdom. The boy asks if Chan has money for clothes and tells him to follow him, saying that he usually takes the payment first, but he will make an exception this time. Cheon smiles as the boy introduces himself as Bonso, so he gives his own name in return. But Bonsu just smiles and says he will call him Big Brother instead. As they walk, Chan silently observes how much the slums have changed over the years. Although before he can think any more, Bonsu suddenly asks if he woke up recently. Cheon raises an eyebrow and asks if it looks like it, and Bonsu explains that since he came out of a portal without equipment, he assumed that Cheon was robbed in the demonic realm. She tries to comfort him, saying that it happens to everyone sooner or later. Chai Jian laughs and points out that Bonsu knows a lot for a kid. Offended, Bonsu insists that he is not a boy, stating that he is 17 years old, and that he only looks small because of poor nutrition. As they continue walking, Chan spots a group of suspicious thugs lurking nearby. Bonso notices his gaze and quickly warns him not to enter the 13th district. He says the place has had a terrible reputation since the District 11 space band moved in. Even the police stopped showing up, and the area is now practically lawless. He adds that they are currently in the 12th district, which is the safest edge of the slums. Cheon listens in silence and wonders if the orphanage in District 13 is still standing after all this time. Elsewhere, a small clothing store displays a buy one get one free sign, but the owner looks exhausted. She regrets opening a store in a place where most people can't even afford to raise children, although half of her stock is children's clothes. He sighs, debating whether he should change his business completely. When the door suddenly opens, Bonso enters first and greets her cheerfully as Mrs. Park. She immediately screams that she is not married and to stop calling her that. He laughs and explains that Chow needs clothes. While our hero goes straight to search through the shelves, Park calls Bonsu and scolds him for constantly dragging broke hunters to his store, complaining that he already has a mountain of unpaid bills waiting to be liquidated. The boy receives a strong tug on the cheeks and tries to defend himself, saying that he could not tell whether the man had money or not. The store owner points out that Chio doesn't exactly look like someone who carries cash. Bonso argues that at least the guy is handsome and reminds her that it was she who told him to bring pitiful hunters, who reminded him of his late brother. Park replies that he only said that once or twice, and warns that if this continues, they will both end up on the street. Bonso brusquely replies that she never asked for his help in the first place, but Park sighs like an exhausted caregiver, and tells him to go wash up, promising to give her some money afterwards. Just then, Chan intervenes and calmly says that he wants to buy clothes. He pulls out a check worth 10 million from Wands, and admits that's all the money he has. The sight leaves Park and Bonsu stunned. Park immediately switches to formal mode as Bonsu rushes to pull out a chair, and sets up a table with cookies and a drink for her new guest bee. As Bonsu ties a napkin around Chan's neck, Park excitedly explains that they sell everything from adult fashion to children's clothing. Chan simply asks for clothes for preschool girls, some outfits for himself, and some shoes. Park instantly lights up, as children's clothing turns out to be her specialty, and starts showing her the latest spring and summer collection, which includes lace, casual clothes, and endless shades of pink. Bonso is standing next to him, massaging his shoulders like an overzealous assistant. When paying, Park can barely hide her joy, having sold more than 100 items and emptied most of her stock. She asks if she wants the clothes sent to her, but Cheon says he will take them himself. Then he hands Bonsu a suit and always, saying he still owes her one more favor. Outside, Bonsu feels uncomfortable as he guides Cheon towards the inn he mentioned earlier. When Chan enters, Bon's thoughts skyrocket. She wonders how someone could give her money and clothes so easily. Having it may be a trap. Remember how traffickers often lure children with kindness. However, another part of him wonders if Chan could be really kind-hearted, like Park. When Cheon comes out, he says that the inn owner seems decent, and the place looks clean. He hands Bonsu a key, and tells him that he will no longer have to sleep on the street. He adds that he paid a full year's rent, including meals, and turns around to leave. Bonsu nervously mutters if this is how kidnappings start, and Chan reminds him that it was he who took him there in the first place. As the lights of the portal light up behind him, Bonsu asks what the trap is, since they barely know each other. And yet Cheon gave him so much. Cheon replies that the boy reminded him of his own past, saying that he once lived the same way. He tells him to take care of himself, and the portal takes him back to the demonic realm. Nam seems relieved when Cheon returns, while Ken runs asking where he disappeared to without telling anyone. Cheon smiles and says that she went to buy him a gift, which makes her radiate excitement. Go seems surprised by the mountain of clothes he brought home, while Nam sulks because none of it is for him. Ken squeals at how cute the dresses look, and Cheon gently tells him to try on the one he wants. While everyone admires the new clothes, the egg inside the wooden hut begins to move. As Cheon folds the new clothes, he feels strangely relaxed by the simple task. Ken suddenly runs out of the room in a silk dress and a ribbon hat, looking like a little princess. Cheon asks if it's his favorite, and she shyly replies that she wants to try on some more. His attempt to wear pants with suspenders ends in failure, so he slips into one of Cheon's shirts and pretends to be a ghost. She continues to try on different outfits with so much energy that both Go and Cheon can't help but make yourself feel funny when you see her. Finally, Kim chooses her favorite outfit because the chick printed on the hoodie reminds her of Go. Cheon tells her to put the rest of the clothes away, and she nods obediently. The Phoenix then asks where Cheon plans to store all the clothes, as they are running out of space. Cheon replies that he will build a dressing room with a dressing room to solve the problem. Chu quickly realizes that means cutting down more trees, but Cheon smiles, saying that he already has an apprentice for the entire workforce. He calls Nam, saying it's time for a workout, especially hard. Nam enters with total enthusiasm and brings Cheon's leather suit, calling it training equipment. Cheon seems confused, so Nam explains that the suit is covered with some kind of poison that almost killed him when he touched it. He admits that it's amazing how Cheon has been using the same thing on a daily basis, as if nothing. Cheon thinks to himself that he never bothered to clean it properly, then casually tells Nam to use it instead. Nam freezes, completely shocked, while Cheon instructs him to put it on and chop some firewood. Go offers to guide you to which trees you need to be cut off. Nan protests, saying the outfit could kill him. But before the discussion can continue, Kim suddenly screams that the egg is moving. Everyone rushes, and Chien tells them that it is about to hatch. Nan, looking nervous, asks if the creature will be Kim's. Kind of a disaster, while Kim confidently says that it will probably be something nice. While Kim and Nam are still arguing, the egg suddenly cracks, and a small eye peeks through the shell. Both react in completely opposite ways as the creature inside begins to emerge. A monster with sharp claws, a scaly body, and a snapping tongue crawls out. But contrary to Nam's fears, the creature turns out to be a strangely adorable snake-chick hybrid that tilts its head and warbles like a bird. Nam is frozen in disbelief, while Kim jumps with excitement. Without warning, the little creature lunges straight at Nam's face, and he lets out a panicked scream that echoes through the hut. Later, in the fields, Ju hits Nam's head with a stick to make him transport the wood faster, although Nam starts to wonder if he's just hallucinating right now. The poison seeping through the suit makes every breath feel heavier, and she silently admires how Chien used to wear the same outfit without flinching. Inside the house, Chien finishes folding the laundry when Kim rushes in, excitedly announcing that the monster is peacefully eating bread and behaving well. Chien smiles and says that the creature should recognize who saved her. They start thinking of a name, and finally decide on Sasa, inspired by her snake-like nature. Just when they decide on the name, the little monster jumps out of Kim's hands, and she runs after him. Ju watches and says she's glad to see them getting along, while Chien turns to ask if the phoenix recognizes the species, as he's never seen one before. Ju admits that she doesn't, but warns Chien to keep an eye on the mandrake roots. When Chien asks why, Ju explains that the creatures of the volcanic region love to eat plant-type monsters because they are rare there, and especially attack those with strong demonic energy. As the small snake slithers towards the mandrake field, Ju reveals that it could be his natural predator. Natural. Everyone gathers to watch the tension between the two sides increase. Kim offers to intervene and stop them, but Chien shakes his head and says that, in the demon realm, monsters should establish dominance on their own. Since they're both still young, he decides it's safe to let them figure it out naturally. The battle begins when Sasa lunges with her claws at the smaller mandrake, but the larger one quickly intervenes and blocks the blow. The mandrakes form a triangular posture, waiting for the next move. Before long, the second root monster lunges for a counterattack, but his strike is stopped by Soso's tail. The bland little guy smiles confidently, although Ju warns quietly that he shouldn't let his guard down so soon. Right after, the smaller mandrake jumps from behind and hits Soso's cheek with his small fist. The blow is light, but enough to make Soso lament and leave crying. Ken quickly runs to comfort the poor creature and calm her down. Chien announces the mandragora roots as the winners, and both Nam and Go agree that the fight was quite a spectacle. Chien tells everyone to get back to work, and Go resumes by hitting Nam on his shiny head. Far away, across a vast sea, a Chimera eagle flies quickly over the waves, as if in a hurry. Back at the house, Go keeps pushing Nam to pull the wood with more effort, while Kim and Sasa cover the wood with slime to make it waterproof. Chien finishes folding the laundry and takes a moment to look around, satisfied that the long work day is finally ending. After 2 days without sleep, Nam sighs with relief and throws away the poison leather shirt that almost drove him crazy. He examines the newly constructed locker room, checking every corner to see if it matches the plan he followed, and wonders if it turned out well enough. Before he can doubt himself anymore, Chien tells him that he did better than expected. Kim notices a faint floral aroma filling the room, and soon everyone notices it too. The pleasant fragrance feels soothing, so she asks why it smells like flowers. Chien explains that Go chose a type of aromatic wood that would naturally make clothes smell good. Ken smiles, noticing how even the mandrake and salsa roots seem to enjoy the aroma. Nam blinks at the name Sasa, realizing he's never heard it before. Chien mentions that the name could always be changed if someone comes up with a better one. Nam immediately suggests calling him Snake Chick, while Kim proposes Piak. Finally, Chien turns to go to get his opinion, and the bird confidently suggests calling him the big footprints in the drawer. Curious, Chien asks what Go's real name is, and the phoenix replies that it was once called Rocky Mountain Horseshoe. Chien stares at her for a moment before giving up on the chaos of names completely. If he declares that the creature will remain Sasa and no one bothers to object, then Go asks what their next task will be. Chien explains that he has been thinking about a worry that didn't bother him when he lived alone. He thinks they should build a fence around the house to prevent intruders from getting close. Nam is dubious, saying that he cannot imagine that someone would willingly approach such a creepy place. Still, Chien insists that it's better to be cautious, as even S-rank monsters or hunters could appear without warning. Jua feels thoughtfully and suggests using a material full of demonic energy. He mentions that the coastal region has a type of yellow quartz that is denser than black stone. If they use that luminous stone as a base for the fence, he explains, it will not only be strong, but also gently glow at night, making their home look warm like a campsite. Ken jumps with excitement the moment he hears that they could go to the beach, but Nam instantly loses his composure. The idea of the coastal region alone horrifies him, and before he can come up with an excuse, a sudden nosebleed saves him at the perfect moment. Acting weak, she puts on a mild damsel in distress act in front of Chien and states that she needs to head to the human realm to drain his demonic energy. Chien allows it, but tells him to take care of Mendergar's roots in case they come back late. Before leaving, Nam warns Chien about the coastal region, saying that even the hunters of Rangoa and those below avoid the place, as it would mean walking to their death. Chien seems surprised, so Nam explains that the entire area is now ruled by 2 disaster-class monsters. These creatures were once Chimera hunters created in a laboratory with faces like birds, but the bodies of humans. The thought of it makes even Chien pause for a moment. Meanwhile, in the coastal region, a group of hunters is already on a mission to capture one of those same chimeras. One of them charges a tracking shot and throws it at the flying beast, achieving a direct hit. However, the creature does not even flinch and continues to fly forward, as if nothing had happened. Thinking that he is retiring, the hunters relax, calling the whole story of the kind of disaster an exaggeration. One of them even suggests chasing him to finish the job. Their leader, however, stops them, saying that they should wait for the monster to return to its lair. He explains that there are 2 chimeras in the region, and tracking both is safer than chasing one blindly. One of the younger hunters wonders aloud how chimeras are still alive after 60 years, or how their bodies are still human, despite becoming monsters. The captain replies that they are failed experiments and remnants of an old project aimed at moving humanity forward. Although chimeras were once seen as a great success, the failed ones, he says, must be destroyed. Suddenly, one of the hunters sees the creature turning sharply in the sky, accelerating back towards them faster than the sound. The captain's eyes widen, and he shouts for everyone to put up a barrier immediately. With a powerful flapping of its wings, the chimera breaks the hunter's barrier like glass, sending fragments flying and knocking them off his feet. They realize too late that they chose the wrong fight. The captain looks up in horror and screams for them to stop. But before the next blow falls, Kim appears with a metal barrier and blocks the attack. The chimera stops in midair, surprised to see another of its kind, and both descend cautiously. Kim insists that Uncle Sparrow was bullying people, although Cheon quietly points out that it seems the other way around. One of the injured hunters calls his captain, saying that a machine creature has appeared, which confuses the captain. So the guy shows him his tracking device. Chai Jian instantly understands what is happening, remembering that Kim is still wearing a human realm tracker. He goes to the chimera bird and asks if she remembers him, reminding her that they once shared a room, and asking what number it was. The creature's eyes widen when Chan tells him that if one lives long enough, one gets to see everything. As the chimera struggles to remember, the hunters whisper among themselves, planning to retreat. Qian warns that letting them escape will only cause more problems for both sides, and that it's better to end things now. Then a faint memory resurfaces for the Chimera. The aroma coming from Qian brings back an image of the laboratory where they once lay side by side. The same pungent smell of the Chimera cell fusion drug from the experiments. The truth hits him, and the creature calls him by his former designation, number 17. The scene goes back to the past, when Gulpa was running through the forest with her sister in tow. At that moment, her sister began to show one of the side effects of the experiment. That made him wonder if taking her with him had really been the right decision. Maybe leaving her behind in that damn lab would have been smarter after all. When his sister faintly mentions that his wings are too hot, he bursts into tears, disappointed by his own helplessness. His wings aren't big enough to take them both flying, so he tells her to hold on a little longer. Just when he is quietly waiting for someone to appear to help, he suddenly comes face to face with our guy, awkwardly pointing a flashlight at him. When Burp demands to know what Qian is doing there, he calmly replies that he came to warn him, because he heard the higher-ups say it was time to get rid of him. Bernhard thinks it sounds weird, but he gives her a wake-up call. He tells her that both he and his sister will be blown up by the detonation curse in 3 days. She suggests leaving her sister behind, as she is not on the elimination list, which means she can keep taking suppressive drugs to live longer. However, Dulpa responds sharply, saying that someone like the one who has never experienced the side effects will never be able to understand it. She remembers how bad it got once, so bad that her sister begged her to escape, saying that she would rather live one more normal day outside than rot inside that living hell. Realizing that the quality of life matters much more than its duration, his wings suddenly expand to their full size. With a raw determination shining in his eyes, he tells our guide to stop chatting and start fighting. But Qian only looks at him with those cold dead eyes before suddenly summoning a door. Virat is surprised to learn that a mere test subject like him even possesses a door. Then she looks him straight in the eye and offers him 2 possibilities. His human cells would be corrupted with the demonic energy once he entered the demon realm, or his demonic cells could absorb it and wake up instead. I thought it was a decent bet, since the detonator wouldn't explode if I crossed into the demon realm. But Vided still wondered if it was possible to survive there. In an ideal world, you need to protect both your body and your mind with a magic barrier. That's not something that kids like them can achieve. Still, Vided accepted his offer and decided he would take a chance for the reward. However, upon leaving, she felt bad because they didn't even know each other's names, despite being roommates for so long. He introduced himself as me or Vyam, and our guy shared his name in return. Back in the present, our hero asks the hunter for his name, but they seem completely clueless. When he asks why he was even there, they just stare at him like cavemen, saying they have no idea. He then sends them through the portal, and you instantly guesses that he used his Oblivion Flower cells, which erased the target's memory from the latter. 3 hours. Then he calls you by name, and the guy seems honored that he remembered him. Kim asks if Mr. Sparrow is supposed to be her friend, and our guy says he's from the Sparrow tribe. Bro then asks Kim if she's right about the Sparrow and Coconut tribes being good friends, and she nods instinctively. Instantly in signal of agreement, as you looks on in total confusion. Kim suddenly apologizes for thinking he was a bad guy. After that, they head to Yu's house, which ironically is just a huge nest with a roof over it. There, the gang has fun, trying a soup clam dish. The only one that tastes different from everything they've eaten before. Ken gets really excited for more, but Yu humbly apologizes as he doesn't have the ingredients to make another batch. However, the little elf is not discouraged, and runs out to happily catch twice as many clams as he needs. Now that they are finally alone, Yu reveals that he only managed to survive in the demon realm, thanks to his immortality cells. Wasting no time, he then asks our guy if he ever thought about getting revenge on the lab. Qian admits that he has thought about it from time to time, but he is in no hurry as life is actually going quite well. When he returns the question to Yu, the guy says that he still has the detonation curse inside him, which means that he will eventually explode like a firework. That aside, our guy also notices that you can use his wings quite well, and then asks if he can turn his head back into human form. Yu admits that he can, but refuses to do it, because his sister's face changed forever. And he would feel terrible if he returned to normal while she couldn't. After all that, our guy asks if he knows that he will only survive for a month at most. Yu is surprised that he knows, and Vidyat remembers his time after he left Earth. He trained endlessly to develop enough mana to survive the demonic energy. Things were fine for a while when her magic and the demon realm energy kept in balance with each other, but one day, the energy got out of control inside her sister and severely damaged her mana hole. While trying to control the damage, he ended up permanently damaging his own core as well. Since then, she has only been surviving, while her sister has been surviving on sleeping fruit, spending most of her life in sleep, to slow down the progression. That's when Cheyenne remembers that mandrake roots can be used to make a medicine capable of healing any mana hole, no matter how damaged it is. Elsewhere, in a dimly lit room, fruit is scattered on the floor, while Vidyat's sister sits quietly alone. At first, he trembles silently in pain, but soon the demonic energy surges out of control, completely taking over his body. As he loses himself in it, back with the boys, Yu surprises to hear that he and his sister can actually be saved from their incurable condition. Our guy reveals that after Yu went, he studied alchemy and learned how to heal the damage to the mana hole. Using boiled water with mandrake roots, it is explained that although the roots constitute only a small part of the plant, they contain almost all of its vital force, which makes them incredibly powerful. Chien never imagined that the plants he grew just for fun would turn out to be so valuable. He even offers to prepare the medicine himself, since I can't travel to the human world to find an alchemist. In return, he asks the guy to take care of the two knuckleheads he will leave behind. Before leaving, he asks Yukon what he can afford, and since the guy has no money, he offers a backpack full of things that hunters usually carry. With that, our guy returns to Earth and asks his lifelong companion, Bon, to help him find an expert alchemist. Bonsu recalls that a new branch was opened in the slums about a year ago. While the boy is talking about it, Chio notices sandbags tied to his arms, and Bonso proudly explains that he uses them to train his body. The boy bravely admits that he wants to become strong like his older brother one day, a total boss, who can plunge into the realm of demons with nothing but his fists. Out of place, Bonso explains that the new manager there is famous for his excellent work. But when no one shows up, they see the manager himself, pacing back and forth, and looking stressed about not repaying the loan. Bonso instantly realizes that the poor guy is being harassed by loan sharks. The boy sighs, saying that borrowing in the slums is just a necessary part of any business. The manager was once a highly respected man, having worked at the city branch for more than 20 years with solid results. But then, out of nowhere, he was demoted and thrown into the slums, for reasons that no one could explain. According to Bonsu, his former boss was the greediest bastard alive, famous for pocketing funds meant to support the slums and other distant ones. He suspects that the manager was expelled simply for daring to report the crimes of the scoundrels. Anyway, when the droopy-looking manager sees Bonsu, his face instantly lights up. The boy quickly tells him that his older brother is looking for an alchemist. The manager, whose aura alone makes it obvious that he is a professional, slaps Bonso on the head and cheerfully invites both of them inside. Meanwhile, somewhere nearby, another alchemist is bored to the core because his boss is useless and the business has been dead for weeks. His grumbling stops abruptly when the manager enters with Chien and orders the assistant manager to bring them drinks. But our guy skips all the talk and gets straight to the point. He says that man should be able to prepare purified mana water from mandrake roots since he is a rank alchemist. The manager is surprised that Chien knows his rank and admits with clear regret that he does not have such high-quality materials in stock. That's when our guy pulls out a mandrake root that radiates so much demonic energy that it feels alive. Both alchemists are stunned by its freshness, as if it had been plucked minutes ago. As for the payment, Chion casually drops the best materials from the coastal region, causing their jaws to drop to the ground. After the couple finishes bragging about the rare goods He asks if that's enough. The manager laughs, saying that it is much more than enough, and they are going to be valued. Looking around the room, Chien sees another mandrake root floating lifeless in a jar of water. The manager claims that she has been dead for a long time, or so he thought. Our guy pours a small stream of his energy inside, and the wrinkled root suddenly contracts. The manager's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Frustrated, the manager insists that he poured tons of mana into that mandrake before, but he never reacted like that. Just then, the door slams open, and his old boss walks in as if he owns the place. Without wasting a second, the man begins to make fun of the empty and shabby office. The man teases that he heard about some high-quality articles that appeared here. Grinding his teeth, Manager Kim instantly realizes that his unscrupulous assistant should have sold him out. The intruder, Hai Jonan, arrogantly introduces himself as the head of the Golden City branch and tells Chai Union that he will be rewarded handsomely for bringing such valuable materials. His arrogant smile and squeaky laugh make Cheon want to shoot him in the face. That aside, she notes the man's surname and asks if he is related to Nobel Prize winner Bokta Aiken. Hearing that, John bursts out laughing again and proudly declares himself the grandson of the great man. But for him, that only confirms his suspicion that corruption runs deep in his family's lineage. His mind flashes back to the time when Bokta herded test subjects to near death, treating them as if they were less than human. The anger bubbling up inside him finally erupts. A huge surge of aura explodes from his body, shaking the ground and forcing Hai to kneel down. She looks at him furiously and spits, asking if it's a family tradition to crush people under her power and steal what they want. Trembling in denial, he and John demand to know what kind of nonsense he is talking about. With glowing eyes and murderous intent flooding the room, Chien warns her to choose her next words very carefully. With a cold tone, he asks if the ad laboratory is still in operation. Upon hearing the name, Hai Jong frowns and insists that he has never heard of such a place. Chien in between closes his eyes and repeats the question, asking if he really doesn't know anything about his grandfather's Chimera experimentation center, but Hae-John scoffs and calls it slander, claiming that his grandfather conducted research intended to benefit mankind for generations. He proudly adds that the man even donated his entire fortune to the victims of the Gate incident, which is why he received a Nobel Prize. That earns Chien a dark smile. He mutters that maybe the old psychopath really had a change of heart before he died. Still, he says it's a shame the bastard died so early for a hunter. Then she wonders aloud if the side effects of falling out of the window onto the door might have helped with that. Gijin's eyes widen in horror because that incident was supposed to be completely unknown to the public. Of course, Chijio doesn't know. He was the one who pushed the old man in the first place. The crackle fossil threatened to throw the Chimera children into a portal, so he decided to let Bactilic experience it firsthand. That said, he orders Hai-John to investigate what's left of his grandfather's lab and have a report ready for when he returns next time. He still can't believe the irony of meeting Bogdiak's grandson after all these years. He was only 9 years old when the mentally deranged scientist kidnapped him. After being transformed into a senseless weapon, all he could think about was completing the orders. And time passed before he even noticed. For all he knows, the lab might be operating under a completely new name now. Just then, Manager King returns with 2 bottles filled with bright green purified mana water. Chien is genuinely impressed by how quickly the rank professional worked. With his humble and honest attitude, the manager carefully calculates all the costs of materials. As a reward, our hero offers him a private contract where he will continue to supply rare ingredients, and the alchemist will take care of all the elaboration. His generous offer leaves the chubby uncle completely stunned. The man bursts into tears of joy when he realizes that he can finally repurchase his building and pay off all the loans hanging over his head. When Chien asks why she is suddenly crying, the manager opens up about her difficult past in the slums. His parents had taken out a large loan so that he could study, even though they could barely afford food. He worked endlessly to pay it off, but no matter what job he took, it was never enough. Our guy assures him that from now on he will always have a job waiting for him. Then he decides to return, hoping that nothing bad happened while he was away. But life rarely goes the way we want it to. Back in the other world, Yu's sister finally loses control. He refuses to defend himself, trying to reason with her and begging her to come to her senses. Grabbing his face, she throws him across the room like a bowling ball. For a moment, he remains motionless, thinking that this could be the end for him. But as soon as he sees Kimiko on him, he remembers the promise he made to protect them. The strength returns to his body, and he jumps into action once more. He flies straight towards his sister, determined to end her suffering and wishing her happiness in her next life. However, before the brothers connect, my friend Crass lands his flying jellyfish right between them, dramatically interrupting the fight. Berman is stunned for a moment, but that quickly turns to rage when he realizes that his best friend has just run over his little sister with his walk. Putting that aside for now, he demands to know if he got lucky with the potion. With a confident smile, our hero lifts the 2 bright green vials, just as he promised. Later that evening, the group settles in after a hearty dinner. Joe's sister, Ya, slowly wakes up next to Kim and wonders if she's dreaming or if this is the afterlife. Turning his head, he sees his brother and a stranger sitting by the campfire. When Chien looks at her, she panics, not knowing who she is or why she is surrounded by unfamiliar faces. Vidyat turns around with a warm smile and tells him to check his mana hole, and sure enough, he is completely repaired and stronger than ever. He also realizes that his face is becoming human again. When Ji turns to her brother to ask who the strangers are, Yu jokingly asks if she really can't tell when the guy she wanted to see for so long is standing right in front of her. When the truth finally hits her, she completely collapses, asking if she really is the number 17. I confirm it, saying that he saved their lives once again. Meanwhile, our guy does not pay attention to their emotional moment and asks if they have run out of red moss again. Ignoring his usual cold personality, he already slowly takes off his mask for the first time in years, and sincerely thanks her from the bottom of his heart. Just then, Kim is completely captivated by the golden fairies of the deep sea that shine on the surface of the water. She already explains that if you follow her home after sunrise, you can find yellow quartz near her nests. That sudden reminder makes our cold and calculating hero realize that he completely forgot that finding that mineral was the main reason he came here in the first place. Back in the human world, the director's subordinates report that several hunters failed to recover the machine creature. What they do know is that he is currently hiding somewhere in the coastal region. The director is puzzled by that, so his men explain that all the rank hunters who went there returned without any memory of place. However, their trackers still managed to detect the target. Then the director's phone vibrates, and on the other end is a furious GI. They ring. Without wasting a second, he demands to know if the director has ever heard of an ad laboratory. The director flatly refuses to hear anything about such a laboratory. So Hae-John starts to break down every rotten detail he knows, but Director Mayan quickly interrupts him. He claims that Professor Bakshiak taught him to always follow honest research and to serve humanity. He swears on behalf of the old man that he has not forgotten that lesson, then says that he is busy and ends the call. Right after hanging up, the guy starts panicking. He can't understand how that useless professor's grandson even knows about the lab when every record was deleted. Before he can think too much, a scientist bursts into the office with a briefcase shaking with excitement. He reports that the experiment to fuse mandrake with mercury was a massive success. They finally created the liquid metal mandrake I wanted. The moment the director sees him, the creepy guy gets chills down his spine. He is delighted because the mandrake forms strong bonds by nature, and the liquid metal has the same property. Combining both traits into one chimera means he finally has a creature that can track down his most prized mechanical creation, Chem. So he orders his subordinate to increase the bounty for Rango's hunters, and vows to make sure his best creation is found. No matter that, meanwhile, Yu is relaxing on the beach near Chien's place. Last night, our guy invited Yu and his sister to stay with him for a while. He even promises that he has a professional cook waiting, but Yu is more surprised that he actually lives in the demon realm now. Our guy assures you that it's a pretty relaxed place once you get used to the atmosphere. Then you ask why he chose to stay there when he could always return to Earth. Bro just looks at him and asks if he really wants to go back to that cursed world. Viret admits that life on Earth was never good for him or his sister, but he still wants to see if things have changed. Hearing that, our guy tells him that it might be possible because he has an idea that could finally cure his curse. He explains that there is a really talented alchemist he met on Earth. Manager Ken might be able to find a cure if they give him some time to study his curse. After a moment of silence, Yu suddenly starts crying. He asks Qian why he is always so kind to him and his sister when they have never done anything for him. Our guy tells him that he helps them because he thinks he could help him find an answer of his own. He spent years wondering if there is anything more important in life than just trying to survive. Back to Yu on the beach, he is already flying out of the ocean, holding two giant ropes in his hands. He throws one at his brother and tells him to pull with everything he has. He pulls with all his might, but even then he struggles under the crazy weight. It turns out that he is dragging a huge net full of an absurd amount of quartz crystals. He can't believe our boy undermined all that in one day. Meanwhile, Qian is feeling refreshed since he hasn't had a proper bath in a long time. On the other hand, Kim is eager to dive again because Lotta Marina's home in the background was incredibly beautiful. That aside, Yu asks how they're going to get all that quartz back to the forest. While our guy is trying to come up with a plan, a lone parrot vulture suddenly flies over his head. It is strange to him because such birds usually fly in large flocks. Kem smiles because his feathers look beautiful, but Ji quickly tells him that he won't be smiling if he sees one up close. Vulture parrots are 4-meter monstrous beasts with a horrible temperament, and hunters usually run for their lives the moment they see one. However, the only thing our guy sees is a convenient Amazon delivery truck cruising in the sky. Back in his place, Nam is training hard, and he feels that his magic ability is growing quite well. At this rate, I could reach a rank sooner than I imagined. Just when he thinks that, he sees a half-dead looking mandrake collapse behind him. He assumes that the angry little guy is upset with him, but it's actually because he's being harassed by a group of 3 men in black suits. Suddenly, one of them recognizes Nam by his knocking brilliant, and wonders if he is now a homeless man living in the mountains. Nam quickly covers her head out of embarrassment. He is surprised that the same troublemakers who harassed him during the exam somehow managed to find him here. Before he can react, however, the Mandragora gang steps in front of him, like a knight in shining fiber. Hunters lose their minds when they see it because these creatures cost more than their weight in gold. The first guy approaches them and tries to treat them as if he is taming some friendly pet. This angers Nan, and she realizes that she has to do something, since the trio is extremely important to her master. But it turns out that you don't need to lift a finger because chubby mandrakes just pick up their tiny. Suddenly, the 3 idiots are sent flying so hard that they wonder if there was an earthquake and confusion. Meanwhile, our guy is soaring through the sky on his newly tamed vulture parrot. But he wonders if the bird is flying slowly because of the weight or because he got too rough with the taming. Back with Nam, he almost loses his mind when he sees those who caused the explosion. He thinks that Ja and her brother are apocalypse-class monsters that live near the coastal area. When he remembers that the others also went there, he becomes seriously worried since none of them returned. He even considers forming a temporary alliance with the guys in black. But before that happens, he already gets right in his face and casually asks if he is Qian's famous chef. Bro gets really scared that a monster can really talk, but the moment he hears the word chef, he quickly asks if he knows his soul. Yu proudly states that they are basically best friends. That aside, when Yu asks if the shady trio are guests, Nam comes up with a naughty little idea. He gives away to what he thinks are apocalypse-class beings, that the trio are despicable thieves who steal their master's property. It's at this exact moment that they realize they screwed up. An hour passes, and our guy finally returns to his humble abode with a big sack full of shiny quartz. He realizes that the vulture gold is almost half dead from carrying so much weight 4 miles, so he tells the poor guy, may he rest after a job well done. The ball of fluff, which is literally a bird, also rolls off the vulture's back because it somehow made him dizzy from flying too high. Seeing the shady trio of wrong has tied to a tree as hostages, our guy wonders what happened while he was away. Yu tells him the story about the mandrake thieves, but suspects something deeper is going on. Meanwhile, she's already asking Kim to give her a review of her beautiful and humble abode. While the girls go sightseeing, Yu explains that these guys are from the Research Institute. They belong to the same organization that is hunting Kim. Our guy recognizes it as the same lab that Nam stole the tracker from. He realizes that more hunters will keep coming because Kim has some kind of tracking device that is active even inside the demon realm. Still, he's confused about how they discovered his house when he and Kim were at the coast. After that, Yu shows a metallic mandrake in his hand and explains that it's probably because of this bright little troublemaker. Our guy can hardly believe that someone actually managed to fuse liquid metal with a live mandrake just to track down Kim. Yu adds that they only came here because their own mandrakes showed them the way, and their next destination would have been the coastal area. Hearing that, Chien realizes that he seriously needs to build some kind of security system before things get worse. Just then, the mandrake trio comes running towards him. They demand that he hand over his brother to them, even if he is basically an enemy. As he gives them the wrinkly little guy, they immediately yell at him to take the other one out too. He is surprised that they can somehow sense that he has an old, wrinkled mandrake hiding in his mouth. Silo. She remembers that Manager King gave her to her because he believed that Cheon would be able to take good care of her. The old man literally shed real tears for losing that wrinkled vegetable. Anyway, mandrakes quickly dig small holes for their abused siblings. The moment the injured couple settles inside, the two perk up as if nothing had happened. And he's relieved that they're not fighting over territory this time. That said, just when he starts to wonder where Nam might be, Ya suddenly calls him from above. It has a bald guy desperately trying to reunite with his teacher in one hand and an excited Kim waving the other. Naturally, our guy keeps Nam away when the guy tries to hug him, with tears running down his face. When he asks Jo why Nam looks so homeless, she explains that he was being eaten alive by piranhas in the lake like an idiot. The guy swears that he only did that to gather fine ingredients to prepare something special for his teacher's guests. Nan asks everyone to wait for a while so she can prepare something special. But when she notices a vulture parrot casually relaxing next to her, she suffers another dramatic heat attack in the air. Our hero tells him to save the performance for later and concentrate on having the food ready already. Somewhere nearby, Kim finds the brilliant mandrake, quietly minding her own business. She is instantly attracted to the shiny object like a curious baby, so she reaches out to touch it. The moment they make contact, something strange happens. Later, the Bird brothers are completely blown away by Nam's special dish, a steaming bowl of rice with kimchi curry. The guy spent hours working on the fine details to create a masterpiece that not even Chef Ramsay can. Our gang throws themselves into the delicious meal, but Chien notices that Kim is barely eating anything. When he asks her what happened, she replies that she doesn't feel well. Instead, she leaves because she wants to get some sleep, but her sharp mind instantly picks up that she must be feeling terrible. By the liquid metal mandrake. At sunset, the mandrake resting on the ground suddenly feels something strange. Right after our guy suggests that they start building their fence to burn some calories, he also detects the same thing. Out of nowhere, a giant door opens behind his house. She sees Kim standing right in front of her. She is sure that if she stays with him longer, it will only bring him more danger. That's why he decides to go back to where he belongs. With the metallic mandrake wrapped in her arms, she says a final goodbye and runs towards the portal without looking back. However, he grabs her at the last second and tells her that her home is where she really belongs. Hearing that, Ken starts crying to Maris again, and Cheon learns the hard way that he should never let the kids out of his sight. A few minutes later, the little one is already sipping hot ramen as if nothing dramatic had happened. She's really happy with the food, but she makes it clear that big sister won't let her get away easily. The next time she even thinks about running away, she sips the ramen so fast that her tongue starts burning like crazy. So Nam gives him a medicine that his mother always used, which is so popular that you remembers that it was also used in the laboratory. After he drinks some of the bottles, he sits quietly with Cheon at the table. She apologizes for worrying him so much like that, but he assures her that she has nothing to apologize for, because those who deserve the blame are her creators, not her. With that in mind, he gets serious and asks her to tell him about her friends from the coconut tribe. After all, she doesn't want to harm anyone who has been really nice to her when she attacks the research institute. Ken tells her everything he knows and doesn't even bother to ask for the exact location, because Nan already knows her well enough. Meanwhile, the bald guy is preparing to get revenge on the Arank pieces of trash, but when he takes the gag off, the Arank instantly tries to bribe them and lets them escape. Freddy B keeps talking about how he is swimming in money and can pay him a huge amount, even promising to shut up about everything. What happened? However, Nam humiliates the arrogant asshole by showing the black card that only the top 1% can own. The hairless clown laughs because he never expected his sweet revenge to walk straight to him. The rank tries to pretend that he was just joking, but Nam shows no mercy. Take out 3 shiny balls made of raw herbs from oblivion. He never proved to himself how painful the allergic reaction is, but Nan thinks it could be the cure for their trash personalities, and shoves the balls right in their face. The next morning, Kim is happily playing with the fluff ball. You asked him if he's really going to attack the lab. Our boy agrees and asks her to take care of Kim while he goes out with Nam and Master Bo. Just then, the bald guy shows up with a giant backpack and a big smile on his face. The reason he is excited, of course, is because he will finally meet a top-notch alchemist. That person could have the cure for their lifelong illness. Seeing that already points out that they are too obvious and should at least cover their face. Nan is not interested at first, but her opinion instantly changes when she sees the absolute queen hiding under the mask. Unfortunately for him, she gives her mask to our guy, even if it doesn't even fit that well. That's the exact moment she realizes she fell in love at first sight. Like an absolute char, he tells her he's not the type to mess around, and that he means what he says. Without hesitation, he asks her what kind of guy is her type. Yu and Chan grab some popcorn because the plot is getting spicy. She doesn't like playing around either, so she thinks deeply and carefully for a long second. After a dramatic cliffhanger, he says that he would probably have to be very extravagant, good at dancing, and have a lot of thick feathers. That hits Nam's insecurity so hard that I ask our boy to take him to the alchemist as soon as possible. Back on Earth, all the civilians are seriously worried when they see a pier to be such a great return portal. A vulture parrot coming out suddenly makes civilians panic so much that they rush to report the case immediately. When Nam points out that everyone is scared, our guy simply says that he doesn't need to walk when he can fly. The guy then asks him where they are even going, but he calmly reminds Nam that he is the one who will lead them. Flying through the big blue sky on a big blue fly, he creatively names his blue parrot. At the research institute, scientists report that all the hunters returned with a strange amnesia. The director is absolutely furious when they add that they lost the metal mandragora, which was their only chance to track down Kim. Without your last one, you can't secure funding from your investors unless you show it. Just then, one of the scientists shows him a small note attached to a hunter's equipment. When the director reads the message of "see you soon," he starts screaming at his terrified employees. At that moment, the window behind him breaks, and our guy suddenly lands in the office. He learns the hard way that even a single missing tail feather really makes it difficult to control his journey. The scene changes to the past when Nam told him about the location of the institute. But he was still worried because the laboratory is the most powerful in the entire nation. Even the current headlines are discussing how the institute created a living mechanical creature. Nam is terrified that they are committing a serious crime against such a large organization. However, his sensei's calm demeanor gives him some confidence. That is until he notices that one of the tail feathers is missing. Our guy explains that it's been that way since the moment he found Blue. Apparently, that missing feather is the reason why Blue was being attacked and eventually kicked out of his community. Since saving him from all the other vultures, Blue has been strangely happy. After flying for some time, they finally spot the research institute deep in the mountains. He orders Blue to go to everything, full speed without turning. The gold gets going and flies straight to the lab like a fearless fighter jet. Now, in the meeting room, scientists are wondering if Ellen started the Third World War or something like that. Once the dust settles, one of them gets a close-up view of Blue, and it scares the hell out of him. Then all of them are wrapped in threads. When Nam asks why they didn't enter through the front door, he replies that he came directly to the top floor, because this is where the principal is staying. The scientists panic and ask who he is, so he claims that he is Chimera's keeper. At that moment, our guy detects a strange dark mana flowing through the air and realizes that there is someone incredibly dangerous here. The scene changes to the Hunters Association Tower, where the president warns his spoiled grandson to register already. The boy argues that he is doing quite well compared to his grandfather, who never exceeded the rank in his entire life. He's already in the same range in his 20s. The useless grandson asks his grandfather to give him more pocket money. His old man regrets having consented to it because the guy refuses to inherit his position, even when he is over 80 years old. In his childhood, he dreamed of saving others like the heroic hunters on TV. But now, all those heroes refuse to do any mission that even sounds dangerous. They only work when it gives them good money. Because of that, the chimeras were made so that they would not have to endanger their own lives. But now those chimera-producing laboratories are charging outrageous amounts, so the regions that can't afford to pay them are completely vulnerable. The president believes that it is the association's job to make sure that people's lives do not depend on whether they can pay or not. That's why the president's seat is the most important position. But all the hunters who are trying to succeed him are greedy scum. If the association falls under the control of the wrong person, they could create a never-before-seen mafia of hunters. The final wish of the old man is that his talented grandson will take over the position. He never had the power to change anything, being a rank-say weak all his life. Hearing that, her grandson suddenly reacts. But before he can say anything, a man urgently reports that there is a golden vulture flying around the slums. When the president asks who is taking care of it, the man says that no hunter is taking the job. That really irritates him because everyone knows that a job in the slums won't pay anything. The president orders him to inform all the Chimera laboratories and declares that he will do it with his own hands. Surprisingly, his grandson Bake says he wants to come too. Back at the lab, Chien realizes that the ominous mana is coming from a white-haired scientist. He shows no mercy, instantly cutting off danger with his threads. However, the scientist's body suddenly turns into liquid metal. Nan looks with horror at the chimera that pretends to be a human. Even the man's subordinates are shocked because they never realized that it was actually a pipe dream. Director Mayong's body transforms into a creepy monster. She gets mad at our guy for turning her precious lab into a complete mess. As the director slides his metal claws towards him, he notices that the liquid metal looks almost exactly like him's. However, it does not have any mechanical parts, which means that he tested everything on his own body. At that moment, Master Gyu tells him that he can now read Principal Mayan's mind. Chien suddenly sees sharp flashes of the twisted man's memories. In the deepest and darkest corners of his laboratories, the director injected children with all kinds of unstable things. He did everything to go beyond anything a human has ever achieved, even surpassing his sociopathic teacher, Bob Diokin. After he finds out that the bastard killed countless children for his own benefit, our hero becomes enraged and crushes his face without hesitation. The mutilated director simply replies that children from the slums are worth even less than sewer rats. Being a part of their experiments should be an honor for them. Not realizing that Chien can hear every thought with Ju's mind reading, the mad scientist thinks that he can liquefy and escape easily. But our guy makes sure that he realizes his crimes in the chamber of pain. A powerful wave of blue mana rolls up the liquid metal slab and carefully packs it into something like a pokeball. After that, he turns to the other scientists, asking if they would like to talk or be sealed also on their balls. Later, our fluffy phoenix tells the full story of director Mayan. The man was a loyal student of Bactalac until he became too greedy. Suddenly, she left the original laboratory with all the data about biological experiments so that she could become a chimera. That never ages. What worries Chion, however, is that Mayan's memories had absolutely nothing about the ad lab. Still, he's glad to have at least gotten rid of the device that Mayan's institute was using to track him. He already told Nami Blue to properly take care of the other scientists. So now the only thing left to deal with are the dirty director's worst experiments. He kicks through the thick steel doors. Inside, he finds countless cells filled with dead chimeras. Chi first may believe that the psychopath actually preserved the children's bodies for research use. Looking at the children reminds Chian of the time when the ad lab tortured him. In the end, they always made sure he stayed alive because he was their golden cash cow. He decides that the children deserve to finally rest in peace. Suddenly, a small fox-like creature comes out because it smells something familiar. She instantly recognizes that she is one of Kem's friends, so she kindly asks the little thing if she knows anything about mechanical creatures. The fox gets excited when he realizes that they know about Kem, and quickly asks if he's okay. When he tells her that she is finally enjoying life in the demon realm with him, her eyes fill with warm tears. She says she has been waiting for Kem to return all this time, and is relieved that he is still alive. At that moment, two more of Kem's hidden friends shuffle out from behind the door. He is also followed by 4 friends. Cordillas I had never heard of. When she asks if there are any more left, Faxi explains that all the others were quietly sold or disposed of. After hearing that, he opens a portal to the demon realm, giving the surviving chimeras a place where they can live freely and blindly. Shortly after, President Lee and his grandson arrive at the research institute. They are left frozen when they realize that the real target of the chimera was the laboratory instead of the nearby slums. As smoke rises from the wreckage, Beck spots the vulture parrot circling overhead. Then he notices something even stranger, because a masked guy is riding on his back, like he's playing modified Minecraft. Meanwhile, our guy calmly asks Nancy if she took care of all the investigators. Her loyal puppy confirms that she moved each and every one of them to a safe place. Nam then asks why they didn't just erase the witnesses' memories, but he says he left that intact on purpose. After that, he asks who the 2 people watching from below are, and Nam explains that they are the president of the association, Lee, and his grandson. He believes that they probably rushed to come because of the wave of urgent reports. Chian remembers the president's family name, so he decides to mess with him. Out of nowhere, he throws a pokeball for the old man to catch. When the president recognizes her, he is surprised as it has been a long time since he saw such a powerful mana seal. These seals cannot be broken unless the one who breaks them has more magical power than the creator. While wondering what kind of monster could seal a powerhouse like Director Mayan, his subordinates confirm that no one died in the chaos. However, they keep getting strange reports. Apparently, the director's own team claims that he was an imposter, a chimera pretending to be human. They go on to explain that the intruder even saved all the researchers after burning down the chimera lab. Hearing this, the principal silently wonders if the intruder is the same boy he assumed died. He died a long time ago. High up in the clouds, our hero decides that they will return directly to the demon realm without further delay. Although Nan wants to get her smooth head well checked, it's hard to stay on Earth with the association tracking them down. Later that night, Manager Kim wakes up, startled by a loud noise outside his door. Seo, wondering who might be visiting at those hours. There, he finds a drug addict on the ground with a black mask covering half of his face. The horror scene almost brings out the poor man's soul, but Chio's familiar voice does not reassure. Calm down. The frightened man asks why he is suddenly visiting him in the middle of the night. With a warm and reassuring smile, our guy says that it's time for me to see the kingdom of demons. Back at their humble abode, Kim and the Bird brothers begin working on a plan to build a fence using all the quartz and light crystals that are out there. The little boy is surprised when you makes a lamp by hitting a hollow quartz on top of a fat light crystal. A few moments later, a portal opens behind them, and Kemi immediately thinks that Chien has returned. Instead, all the chimeras of the Research Institute roll out of the portal and pile on top of each other like dirty laundry. The Bird brothers seem confused and wonder why our boy would send such weak chimeras. But Kim quickly runs away and timidly hides behind the house. Meanwhile, Sasa stands proudly in front of the newcomers, looking like she is trying to assert her dominance. However, the little tree chimera ignores the noisy idiot and staggers towards the orchard with rich soil. A chaotic fight then breaks out when the original owners of the garden catch the intruder stepping on its territory. Soon after, our guy also returns to the demon realm with Nam and manager Kim. The manager is instantly impressed by the complex structures that Chown managed to build within the supposedly primitive kingdom. The fat man starts to get excited about the amazing architecture that our guy designed with almost no resources. But Chown is more focused on Kim, who is hiding behind a tree, instead of catching up with her old friends. Sao running, telling Nam and the manager not to move, while he takes care of the situation. After that, he gives the mask back to Ja, and asks why a fiber war is happening inside her vegetable garden. She explains that the little tree sapling wants something from the fertile land, and the mandrakes started a turf war to defend their land. When neither side gives an inch, Ant-Man rushes in to help settle the fight. The sapling uses its creeper to throw its companions directly at the chubby mandrake. Unfortunately, things don't turn out even close to the way they planned. The chubby mandrake gently pulls away at the last second, so the ant flies by. And he hits his head directly against the metal mandrake. Seeing how that disaster unfolds, the little sapling quietly picks up his poor companion and returns to his group. With a crushing defeat, our hero quickly realizes that the fox is missing. Turns out he saw Kim sneaking out before and followed her. Sitting on the other side of the tree, she tells King that she will not move an inch until her apology is accepted. You see, Ken completely gave up fighting in any match when he was in the research lab. The curse that made the orders absolute didn't work on him. So the scientists couldn't make her fight no matter what they did. Every time she was sent to a ranking match, she always lost after being hit on purpose. Seeing that, scientists theorized that he must have been born with a gentle personality. Although she is a chimera of combat, she refuses to defend herself. However, Director Millen was not worried at all. If it was just a personality problem, then I could fix it easily. The evil bastard placed some of the weaker ones in his room, so that they could become his closest friends. Then she used the curse to force those same friends to fight her. I believe that there is nothing more painful than being betrayed by the very friends you trust the most. After breaking her into pieces, he tried to brainwash her, saying that loyal friends do not exist. He told her he would die unless he broke them before they had a chance to break her. At that moment, something deep inside her snapped. Suddenly she ran out with tears in her eyes. He chose to run away instead of hurting his friends. All the scientists in the lab tried to stop her, but no one could stop her from escaping directly through the portal. Returning to the present, Kim is now in her original form. Faxi is surprised to see her crying. She asks why Kim is crying when she is the one who should have been upset. Kim hugs her tightly and says that he missed her and the others for a long time. Meanwhile, the three adults have been quietly watching, stalking them from behind a tree all this time. Chien is relieved that they are on good terms again. When he returns to the house, however, he discovers that the two smooth brains took the order too seriously. After that, he introduces the manager as his rank personal alchemist. The old man makes a solid presentation, but then blurts out the first thing that comes to mind. Unk politely asks the Bird brothers if he can have some of their feathers for research purposes, of course. The scene then switches to Bonsu, who is meeting up with the girl from the cute clothing store. He swears to her that the bluebird monster hoax was real, and as the association came running to take care of it. Just when he tells her that the weather is getting quite cold, she serves him some delicious steamed potatoes. She instantly perks up when she takes a bite of the warm treat. She notices that he looks a little paler than usual. Indeed, he admits that he feels a little sick, and that his body hurts after every workout. When she mentions that even painkillers don't work, she realizes that it coincides with the signs of the awakening disease. She thinks she is cold due to fever, and body ache is a classic sign. In addition, he is in his late teens, which is when awakenings usually begin. Hearing that, the boy instantly refuses because there is no way a redneck like him can become a hunter. She replies that background doesn't matter to hunters and points out that their growth has been pretty fast lately. She forcibly hands him some money and orders him to use it for a bus to the association in the nearby city. There, he should get tested to confirm his potential. On Sunday, he sheepishly says that it is not known if he could become a legendary hunter one day. Bonzo is really happy to hear her say that, so he thanks the kind lady. The lady, who is very sensitive about her age, gets angry because she is still a child, but he calls her madam again, and promises to return the great favor one day. Meanwhile, in the demon realm, the new chimeras help the bird brothers build the quartz crystal fence. While Yu is not really tired from work because it's a pipe dream, Nam refuses to stop helping despite being half asleep. Soon, everyone meets with Chien to finish the job, while manager Ken figures out a way to fix Blue's tail feathers. When Nan says she wanted to get her head checked first, our guy unwittingly threatens to make her go home if she can't wait, which makes the bald guy go quiet very quickly. Then he sternly reminds the Chimera gang that no one can live for free unless they contribute something. Later, Kim accompanies him on his way to finish a part of the fence. After he tells her what he plans to do, she asks if he is on good terms with his friends now. The girl freezes instantly before sheepishly asking if she really went to the coconut tribe to save her friends. He realizes that she has realized that he found out who she really is. Then, she shyly starts to reveal that she doesn't actually come from the coconut tribe. But Chien tells her not to worry because no one will chase her in the future because he took care of everything. Suddenly, he surprises her by saying that they could make this home the coconut tribe. They still need a suitable name for the growing family, and it has to be cute, like their personality. In the dark starry night, illuminated by the bright quartz fence, she tearfully thanks him for everything he has done. After that, she returns with a burning confidence. Yu and the others watch closely, surprised that the conversation went surprisingly well. Nan lets him know that the fence is finally complete, and it looks amazing. Kim is delighted that the house is bright and cute. Faxi missed her a lot, so he surprises her with a loving hug, and started licking her like an ice cream. Blue is also inspired, and crashes straight into Chien to give him a big hug. It turns out that the feathers completely grew back. The manager finally manages to catch up with him, and says it really didn't take long for the treatment to work. Apparently, the red moss that our guy gave her has incredibly powerful healing abilities. Upon seeing the majestic feathers on Blue's tail, Nam's hope for the day when she will finally grow hair is instantly skyrocketed. Not wanting to miss a better opportunity, he gently approaches the manager. When he asks the man if he could have any experience with hair loss, the man is genuinely surprised that he knew about it. The man tells Baldwa that he has actually been working on a hair growth serum for the last 10 years straight. Apparently, that is a disease that all alchemists are desperately trying to cure. So the manager promises that he will contact Nam first, because he really needs it right now. Nam's shiny bald head instantly hits the ground. She bows deeply to the man whose hands really have her chances of getting a girl. The manager then tells the Bird brothers that he also discovered something new of his own: feathers. He carefully tries to explain that magic circles are very difficult to decipher, and the curse on them is so complex that he has never seen anything like it. However, he believes that a large amount of mandrake fruit could help him solve the case completely. Hearing that, our guy asks if that is the red fruit that grows naturally on mandrakes. He also explains that they are extremely difficult to get because you can only pick the fresh ones, and the mandrake lets you pick them. In addition, they should make small huts because small creatures like to hide in dark holes to stay safe from predators. Manager Kim is amazed by his absolutely invaluable knowledge about the species. Chien admits that he has a bit of a history with the little ones, something he had never talked about before. He remembers the moment he was sent on a mission. They wanted to test if he could survive 10 whole days in the demon realm alone. But the mission felt more like a chance trip to a snowy mountain for someone like him. He even decided that he should hike to the top just for fun and a little challenge. On his way, however, he suddenly heard a rustling in the nearby bushes. When he looked inside, he saw a small injured mandrake struggling to move.